everybody. Good. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 2. How do you feel today? Oh, come on. You guys did so much better yesterday. I'm going to give you one more shot. How do you feel this morning? There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. I also want to welcome back the tens of thousands that are tuning in to the live stream. Please stay tuned to the channel. We've got lots going on today, so I want to make sure that you are engaged with us throughout the whole way. Make sure you're also tweeting on Twitter and sending us using the hashtag. Stay in touch with us. Ask questions through Twitter. Please continue to be engaged. Thank you so much for your engagement yesterday. We have a big day today. We start off with a fireside chat. We're going to go into a pitch competition where you're going to hear contestants who have traveled a long way to come pitch their ideas to you and to a panel of judges. And then we've got an afternoon full of insightful sessions that we're really excited to be delivering for you. So I want to make sure you're fully ready for all of this. So please let me know if you know what your learning intention is for today. Say yes. Yes. Whoa, all right. There, I was starting to worry for a second. You made me wait. All right. If you're going to follow up with someone that you met yesterday, say yes. Yes. Awesome. All right. Those are the 2 key things that yes, maybes. Did I hear? Was there a maybe in there? No, I hope not. These are the key things that I want to make sure you're doing. Have your intentions. Make sure that you're ready to connect with somebody and follow up with them and add new connections to your list today. Take full advantage of this opportunity. All right, so without further ado, I think we are ready to begin. I would now like to introduce our first fireside chat of the day between Jorge and Daniela Foster, focused on investing in local human capital for the private sector. Jorge Barbosa is the Youth Summit International Youth Engagement Co-Lead for the team, and he works within the Environment Global Practice here at the World Bank. Daniela Foster is the Senior Director of Global Corporate Responsibility at Hilton, where she leads global strategy, youth economic opportunity, social environmental investments, signature partnerships, and reporting across Hilton's value chain. A policy innovator and a social entrepreneur, she also co-founded the Emergent Leaders Network and has spent her career focused on actionable innovation in government. Please help me welcome both Jorge and Daniela to the stage. Awesome, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is wonderful seeing everybody here today. Happy, bright faces in the morning. I hope everybody had a little bit of a nibble, a coffee, orange juice, etc. Well, we are so happy. Yesterday was a fantastic day talking about human capital and investments and education and nutrition, all sorts of topics very much related. We saw a lot of good energy, a lot of excitement out there. Thank you all for participating. I even met so many colleagues and friends from Caribbean islands, and we were so happy to have you all here, as well as many other countries and regions from around the world. And thank you all as well, those that are joining us live from different regions and countries. This is very exciting. Thank you all. All right, so without further ado, we'll get started on our fire chat this morning. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, team, for all your support. Very briefly, I would like to also very much thank our team at the World Bank Group, our printing and publishing servicing. They have been a huge support. Thank you also to those conferencing services and everybody else out there. Thank you all. Okay, so Roger briefly already introduced our speaker for this morning, Mrs. Daniela Foster. I want to add a few more points of very much interest to all of us. So this is quite exciting. I was very happy to hear that Mrs. Foster actually was also the Chief of Staff at the United States Department of State. So that's very exciting. She's also the co-founder and chairwoman of the Emergent Leaders Network, whom provides micro scholarships and mentoring to community college students across the country. So this is very exciting. Mrs. Foster is also a part of the board of the United Nations Global Compact Network in the United States. You may, of course, tweet her after the event and perhaps during at DEEINDC. That's DEINDC. So that's Twitter for your reference. Additionally, please do not forget our hashtags, hashtag WBG Youth Summit, hashtag Invest in People, hashtag Blue Economy for those Caribbean folks. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Daniela, for joining us.
Thank you.
A pleasure, fantastic. Okay, so, you know, yesterday we had a couple of opportunities to discuss with some colleagues, and there were a lot of things exciting that came out of this. And one thing I like to do as well, to replicate some of those efforts is, you know, I'll be interested to learn a little bit more about you, about your trajectory as a professional, but also you as a person, right? So as a young person, where do you see yourself in the future, right? How did you pave your path? Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with such a dynamic group. I've been following you since yesterday, so I look forward to a great discussion today. When I was younger, I had a lot of things I thought about, right? I remember as a little kid, I watched a lot of a TV show here we called Judge Judy, and some of you may have seen it, yeah. And so I actually, initially, my first idea was, oh, that's great. This sounds great. You get to sit on a bench and, you know, make decisions. That's great. Maybe I'll be a judge. And then, of course, as you grow up, you realize what's entailed in that, and a lot more of kind of the policy and legal side that I wanted to get into. But one thing that became pretty clear to me by the time I was in high school was that I wanted to work in the international arena. And then in particular, I wanted to work in international development. And early on, I remember thinking, okay, great, you know, maybe I'll go into journalism, I'll be a news anchor or do radio. And I had an amazing opportunity when I was young in high school to do that, to be a news anchor and to do a local radio show in California. And it taught me a lot. But as I graduated college and I looked out into the future and said, what do I want to do? What do I want to wake up every day and do? I went through an exercise where I looked at what are those jobs out there that look really interesting to me. And they were all international. They all had to do with international development and economic growth. They all happened to be in Washington, D.C., which is part of how I landed here. But one of the things that I think is interesting is when I would tell people what my major was, it was intercultural communications and business, they would say, that's great, but what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that? What kind of job can you get with that? And I remember saying, look, I don't have all the answers for you yet, but this is what I want to do, and there might not be a specific job related to this right now, but in the future there will be. And so I'm going to end with that piece, but I want to leave that with you because the reality of today is that the job you may have 5 to 10 years from now may not even exist today, or it may look entirely different. I think we are moving into an economy, in a world that is about human capital. It is about innovating, but not just in the technological way. It's about innovating in terms of processes and the way that you think and the way that you problem solve.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's very insightful, and it very much echoes some of our discussions yesterday on the future of jobs, what things will look like in the future for all of us. I remember somebody even talked about, you know, in the future we might be negotiating policy with robots, right? So who knows? But also in terms of what we will be doing as individuals might also radically change. Let's dive in a little bit more into now your role at Hilton, right, as the Senior Director of Global Corporate Responsibility. And we're very excited to hear a little bit more about what are some of the specific examples of human capital projects or investments or innovations done currently by Hilton at the local, regional, international level, or, you know, however you would like to frame it.
Absolutely. So before I get into that, I have a question for you all. Can someone tell me what is the world's largest employer, both directly and indirectly? No, I mean industry sector, but good one. They're coming here. You're getting there. I hear hospitality. Any others? Come on, guys. It's not that early. Oh, yeah. There we go. Travel and tourism. So travel and tourism is the world's largest employer, directly and indirectly. So that's 1 in every 9 jobs globally. So I bring this up because that is one of the backdrops that got me interested in travel and tourism and hospitality. I remember even when I worked at the State Department, one of the things that I would always look at is what are those industries and those companies that are creating jobs, and not just creating jobs in offices, but actually hiring locally on the ground. And I remember doing this exercise as part of the youth economic opportunity work I was leading at the State Department. And so I always had travel and tourism on my radar, and I always had Hilton on my radar. So when I got the opportunity to join Hilton 2 years ago actually as of yesterday, one of the things I was really excited to work on is our youth issues. So I lead our global youth work, and there's a couple of interesting things in here. So, you know, Hilton is in over 109 countries and territories, so truly a global company. We're opening a hotel a day around the world, so the growth is pretty rapid. And one of the things that I focus on is, as we grow, ensuring that that growth is both an inclusive growth and a sustainable growth. So there's a number of things that Hilton has done to build that into the way that we operate and grow. So in 2014, Hilton announced the Open Doors Pledge. That's the pledge that we have to connect, prepare, or employ 1 million young people by 2019. That's 1 million young people. It's pretty intense when you think about it. So that has kept me really busy. And a lot of what we look at, we have like 3 pieces that we look at. We looked at the connect, prepare, and the employ. On the connect side, we look at how are we connecting young people with opportunities in travel and tourism. Is it even on their radar? Do they even know about the career pathways? One of the things I've always found fascinating about hospitality is that our senior leadership, the senior leaders across our business, 50% of them started out in line level roles. They started out on the front lines of the business. Even our CEO, he started out working at a hotel here in the DC area. My boss started out working in Mexico as kind of a server. So it's really interesting to see the trajectory that they've had and the career opportunities that exist. So we do a lot around that connect side. And then we do a lot with preparing. So one of the questions that I am always thinking about is how do we ensure we have the skills that we need for those opportunities that are going to come up? So we actually partner with the International Youth Foundation. We have a program called Passport to Success, and that's all about providing young people the soft skills that they need to be able to plug into jobs and careers in hospitality and travel and tourism. And then the second thing that we do is quite a bit around connecting, and that the third thing is not the connecting piece, but the employing piece. So we have 400,000 employees around the world. The interesting thing is that increasingly, nearly 50% of those are young people, millennial and under. We have a very young and diverse and dynamic workforce. So we're doing a lot around things like apprenticeships, work and job shadowing to kind of, help people grow within the industry. So these are some of the things that are on my mind on a regular basis. Something else I would say, because I think it's so relevant to everything in this room, is that we recently launched, this year has been a really big year for Hilton. We announced our global 2030 Travel with Purpose goals. Travel with Purpose is our corporate responsibility strategy, but as part of these 2030 goals, we made some big, bold commitments. We committed as a company to cut our environmental footprint in half by 2030 and double our social impact by 2030. There's a lot that sits under that. We were the first company to commit to science-based targets to reduce carbon emissions. We're hoping that that will set a trend across our industry. And on the youth front, on the social impact front, there's a couple of really important commitments we made that I think are really relevant to this room. One, we committed to double our spend in local sourcing. So what does that mean? That means as a business, by 2030, we want to double what we're doing to buy local so that we're fostering that local economic growth in the places where we have properties. The other thing that we did on the youth front is we committed to double our investment in youth economic opportunity programs in the countries where it's needed most. So we worked with the International Youth Foundation on what's called the Global Youth Wellbeing Index. It's an index that ranks 29 of the world's countries that make up 70% of the youth population globally. And it looks at things like gender, health and well-being, technology connectedness, civic participation, economic opportunity. It looks at 7 different indicators to say, how is youth well-being? How are young people doing in different parts of the world? And it's interesting, because one of the takeaways from that, if you had to guess where young people are doing the best, they're actually doing the best in education, but simultaneously doing the worst in economic opportunity. So part of what that tells us is that you all are more educated than you've ever been. You're more technologically connected than you've ever been, but that access to economic opportunity and jobs is just not there. I bring this up because that is why I'm so passionate to work in travel and tourism. Because travel and tourism, it's 1 in 5 1 in every 5 new jobs globally is coming out of travel and tourism. Over the next decade, it's going to add 100 million new jobs to the global economy. Just think about that for a second. So the youth unemployment crisis is about 74 million, give or take, young people unemployed. If just half of those 100 million new jobs in travel and tourism were opened up and young people were prepared to take them, we could cut the global youth unemployment crisis in half. So there is a lot of potential in the industry. And when I talk about travel and tourism too, there's a lot of potential for entrepreneurship. So for this ripple effect of whether you want to be a tour operator and start your own tour operation, or whether you're looking at ride sharing or some of the other pieces that go with travel and tourism, there is tremendous potential.
Fantastic. Wow, there's a lot of exciting initiatives. This is very good. And I like very much to hear about a 2030 type of commitment as well, right? In relation as well, say, to the 2030 agenda and its sustainable development goals. This is quite very good to hear, and a good initiative, very in line as well with human capital and what we're trying to accomplish. You have a similar index as well. You mentioned specifically for youth, though. So this is very fantastic. I also very much enjoyed hearing about, and understanding a little bit more about the growth in the sector, the tourism, hospitality sector. And if you think about it, for example, in coastal communities and island states, some of the biggest sectors in the blue economy are specifically the tourism and hospitality, right? For those that are coming to a beach, those that are coming to a scuba dive, those that are coming to this paradise. So thank you. And you touched on some of the specifics as well that I wanted to ask you on how can companies and how can Hilton, for example, promote youth innovation in action. And that was lovely. Now, we could expand a little bit more if you like, but also I'd like to have a little bit of a room for questions from the audience. I feel like we have a lot of good food for thought here. So if that's all right with you, we can open it up.
Yeah, so I'll just add one piece
Please.
to that, and then we'll open it up. So one of the other things I'm most excited about is we launched what's called the Hilton Africa Growth Initiative. And this is a commitment for Hilton to double its presence in Africa over the next 5 years. The reason I'm excited about this is because what our team looks at is that sustainable and inclusive growth. And so we just launched a few months ago what we call our Hilton Big Five for sustainable travel and tourism in Africa. And as part of that, we have 5 things that we've committed to. And the first one is economic opportunity for young people. So the whole idea is, as part of this growth, we're going to work with the local communities on things like Passport to Success to ensure that we're hiring local, to ensure we're buying local, and to ensure that we're investing local. So we're doing a lot around local sourcing, doing a lot around things like water stewardship, human rights, and anti-wildlife trafficking.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's very good to hear about a Africa-focused initiative. We have a lot of our participants, both here and remotely as well, from Africa. So this is wonderful. I'm sure there's a lot of interest. Let's have some questions, please. Everybody, those of you that might have questions, feel free to line up on the microphone, and let's take a couple so we can get the conversation continued. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Maria. I work in nonprofit sector in Canada and mostly in the Latin America, Caribbean region. So, Ms. Foster, you're just a well of knowledge. I really appreciate you being here today. So I thought I'd ask you, what other industries or maybe other private sector giants that you know of are trying to invest in youth or perhaps replicate what Hilton is doing with young people? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take another 2 questions for now.
Okay. Hello, I am Fandi. I'm an economics student from Indonesia. And I would like to ask, since we are talking about investing in local human capital, I would like to highlight one of an economic terms called the brain drain. It's a condition where human capital tends to migrate, so especially in these global economies where people with good human capital move from the developing places into a more developed places. So this creates a condition where poor places only gets poorer and rich places gets richer. And therefore, what kind of things or policy that you would like to advise to the youth or to the policymaker to tackle this problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take our last question.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kloss, and I am studying International Studies and Economics at Boston College. And for my minor, I'm studying Management for Social Impact. And a lot of what we do is case studies on the CSR initiatives of big global companies like Hilton. And something that we really focus on is how companies are evaluating their success. So I think it's awesome that you're committing to cutting environmental impacts and going to be trying to double your social impact. But I'm curious is what kind of metrics you're using to measure the success, especially of the social impact, because that's an awesome thing to do, but it's very kind of vague. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have the floor.
I think I got it. I may ask you again, but okay. So we'll do this rapid fire. First one. So the first one, in terms of what other companies are doing, it's interesting, right? So I told you before, I've looked at industries for a long time. I think where you traditionally see a lot of youth work happening is in the financial services industry. So they're doing quite a bit around things like financial literacy and trying to engage young people. It's strategic for them because those are their future customers, and they gotta figure this out. You also see it quite a bit in tech, of course. There's been a major wave. I know we have Intel here around STEM skills and ensuring that the tech industry has the next generation of talent that they need to continue to grow and innovate. And then you see it quite a bit in professional services. So if I think about your big consulting firms, they tend to also do quite a bit on the youth side. What I will say though is I always look at where are companies actually hiring people on the ground in their communities. And that gets them a bit more funneled. That's where you get into things like travel and tourism. That's where you get into industries like retail, et cetera. Question 2. So question 2 was on brain drain and the global economy and the model and scale and how do you tackle that? So a couple of things. It actually gets back to what I was talking about before. One of the things that I always looked at is where are companies hiring in the actual community? So part of the reason I mentioned to you guys the Hilton Africa Growth Initiative is because we're growing in frontier markets, primarily sub-Saharan Africa, primarily places that may not have a really established formal economy. So travel and tourism has the potential to be one of those major growth industries. So in those cases, we are hiring local. Everywhere around the world where we operate, we're hiring local. So if you want to think about tackling brain drain, you have to ask yourself, what are those opportunities in a community for young people? What are those sectors? What are those unique problems that can be solved? And some of that can definitely be entrepreneurship, but it's really about trying to connect the supply and demand and provide young people with a pathway so that they stay and grow in their communities. And then the third question was around corporate responsibility and tracking. So I also lead our global ESG reporting, so environmental, social, and governance reporting. I'm going through that cycle right now. And you're right, typically social impact is one of the hardest things to track. So one of the things that Hilton invested in about a decade ago is a system called LightStay. And LightStay is our corporate responsibility measurement platform. Every single one of our 5,500 plus properties around the world is required as a brand standard to report into LightStay. That means they track their energy, their water, their waste, how many young people they're impacting, how many volunteer hours they're doing. So we've had that in place for over a decade, and that's part of how we have been able to measure, to track, to monitor, to set bold targets, because we've had a decade of data, and we continue to do things like look at getting our data assured. We have a whole tracker on the back end where we measure the connect, prepare, and employ for young people. So there's a lot that we're doing on that side. All right, next three.
Fantastic. Actually, I'm so sorry. We're right on the dot in terms of time. We have 1 minute, yes, but we have to set up the stage. I apologize. Everybody, thank you so much. Daniela, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And you can tweet me at DNDC if you have more questions. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Daniela. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you again. Let's have one more big round of applause for both of them. Thank you so much for kicking us off today. All right, it is time for the pitch competition. This is one of the parts that I get the most excited about, and I think you're going to enjoy the ideas a lot. And I want to say a few things as we start to prepare the stage for this part of it. But I want to make sure that when you're listening to these ideas, listen in a couple of ways. I'll provide you with a few intentions for you to consider. One, I want you to think about how you might be able, if this aligns with your interests, could you support some of these ideas? Could you get involved in some way? So think about that. The other thing I want you to think about is, what might you ask? What question might you have for them? While we won't be able to open the floor for Q&A, we have a Facebook group where we can engage and then connect there so that we can ask those questions of the contestants and keep that conversation going. But I want to make sure that they're pushed and they're challenged, and they're going to be around throughout the day, so you will have an opportunity to see them again. So please do keep these things in mind. But I really want to see if there are opportunities here for some of you to connect with some of them and be able to connect later and stay in touch and perhaps support each other. All right, so we all set the stage? All right. So we are going to take a moment to set up our stage very quickly. In the meantime, please stand up, please stand up. Stand up, stand up, there we go. All right, because we're about to sit for a little while and listen to a lot of pitches. All right, I want you to introduce yourself to one person that you don't know. Go, one person. Molly. All right, everyone, please have a seat. Please have a seat. All right, everyone, please take your seats. We are ready to begin. Wow, that was incredible energy. I feel like this was a densely packed bottle of carbonated fluid, and I just took that cap off and it just all started spraying over the place, and the conversation just exploded. That was awesome. Thank you so much for that. So we're now beginning our pitch competition. I would like to invite Roman Balin to please come up to the stage. Roman is a member of the Youth Summit Organizing Committee, and he is the lead for this competition. At the IFC, Roman supports stakeholder engagement and mobilized concessional finance for blended finance and advisory service projects. Please help me welcome Roman to the stage.
Thank you very much, Roger. Good morning, everyone. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you guys feeling today? Good, good. So before we jump into this session, I'd like to acknowledge our live audience tuning in from all over the world. We have sponsored watch parties hosted at World Bank Group offices, universities, and homes all over the globe. Let me specifically acknowledge Nigeria, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Norway, and Chile. So just to get a sense of the incredible diversity that we have here today, I'd like all of you just to raise your hands when I call the regions, the various regions that we focus on here at the World Bank. Anyone here from Latin America, the Caribbean? Europe, Central Asia? All right, one person, two people. The Middle East, North Africa? Sub-Saharan Africa? Wow. South Asia? East Asia and the Pacific? All right. It's a pretty good turnout. So thank you again for being here today. I have had the distinct privilege of leading this year's competition. As many of you know, the objective of the competition is to provide young professionals, such as all of you gathered here today, with a platform to voice entrepreneurial solutions to local development challenges. The reason I asked earlier where you're all from is to shed light on the incredible diversity of the teams who submitted proposals this year. We received an unprecedented 1,350 submissions. These teams hail from over 120 different countries, so closely emulating the diverse audience we have here today. The number is also a threefold increase over last year, so I think we should probably stock up for next year and be prepared to have a significant increase. And I encourage all of you to be on the lookout for next year's competition. We want all of you to apply. It's open to everyone. Given this year's theme, the concepts submitted have been extremely multifaceted. To give you a couple of examples, concepts range from tackling gender-based violence to enable girls to go to school, leveraging mobile nurses to provide early diagnosis of birth defects to expectant mothers in South Asia, and institutionalizing internship programs that match young professionals with the skills they need to excel in the future. These young entrepreneurs took it upon themselves to lead these ventures, not because they were told by someone to do so, but because they believed in improving the potential of their fellow citizens and the citizens of the communities in which they've worked and studied. I'd like to ask everyone in the room to please join me in a big round of applause to all these young, inspiring, and brave voices. As some of you will know, the competition was structured through a 3-stage review process. A select number of proposals were shortlisted by 2 expert committees, which evaluated each of the proposals based upon the criteria which Roger will shed light on later. I'd like to sincerely thank all the young professionals and senior experts in the education and health space across the World Bank Group who helped make this review possible. We had young professionals from the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, and the International Finance Corporation to pitch in during the review process. It was an extremely competitive process, as you can imagine, and I'm honored for you to meet our 6 finalists who are eagerly awaiting to present their proposals and sharing their concepts with you in a couple of moments. Not only do these finalists hail from 6 different countries, but they represent distinct themes linked to human capital. In a moment, you'll hear pitches ranging from improving learning outcomes for children at the bottom of the pyramid in South Asia to leveraging mobile education tools for children in regions afflicted by natural disasters and conflict, to childcare in Latin America and mobile technology for improving health outcomes in Africa. As Doug Gallin eloquently expressed during yesterday's Fireside chat, which most of you attended, I would like all of you tuning in to continue to religiously be passionate about the causes and endeavors you're tackling in your communities, but to remain agnostic as to the specific methods of how to solve the problems you're facing. Press forward in times of adversity and setbacks. Set no limit as to the scale you can achieve, while continue to think creatively about your approach. Before I hand it back over to Roger, I'd like to give our distinguished panel of judges an opportunity to introduce themselves, their affiliation, and why they're excited to be here today. So with that, I'd like Brian to maybe start. If you have, there's a handheld mic on the table. If you could just stand up, face the audience, and just introduce yourself very briefly. And please hold your applause till the end.
Please. Hi, I'm Brian Gonzalez, and I'm with Intel. Up to 3 weeks ago, I was the general manager for the global education sector. In that role, I spent 10 years focused around implementations of solutions in education. Now I've moved to Washington, D.C. I've been 18 years at Intel, but only 18 days here in D.C. So my first day, it snowed, okay? Welcome from San Francisco. I'm now focused around government policy and policy in the public sector. When I look at you guys out here, you are the future. It's not just a song or something I'm going to now do a dance. It really is. At Intel, we talk a lot about what's coming in the future. You guys are going to make it happen. So for me to be part of this is a great honor, and I'm very pleased. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Veronica Nyan-Jones with the International Finance Corporation, IFC, not the Independent Film Channel. We are, in fact, the private sector arm of the World Bank Group, just up the street. If you'd like a tour, happy to bring you over there later today. I head up the Advisory Services Group in the Infrastructure and Natural Resources Department. Essentially, we think about sustainability, social cohesion, ways that we can make sure when you make an investment in infrastructure or mining or oil and gas, that there are benefits to the local host populations. That could be through services, through infrastructure, through jobs, through revenue management. And we feel strongly that we don't have enough young people helping to decide how these investments are made, how the government is accountable for revenues that they receive from these investments, and to make sure that you have some opportunity to design the infrastructure of the future. So I look forward to hearing from more of you. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Zieger, the head of U.S. Ventures for Village Capital. If you don't know about Village Capital is a mission-driven venture capital fund that finds, trains, and invests in entrepreneurs like yourselves who are working on some of the most important problems in the world. We do this through a number of ways that reduce bias in investment, and we believe that basically the system of how we support small business and entrepreneurship really needs to be inverted and changed to listen and hear more from the field and to create systems that reduce bias and find innovation in new places. So I'm excited to be here with you all today just to hear what you have to bring, and looking forward to seeing if there's opportunities to support you becoming investment ready and growing your businesses and ideas into the future. So thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dina Ringgold, and I am currently the manager of the Human Capital Project here at the World Bank. So I am really fired up about this summit and the topic and all the things we're going to hear later this morning. So I head up the team in Annette Dixon's front office. You met her yesterday, that put together all of the materials on the index and led the work getting countries engaged and involved in thinking about how to move forward on human capital. So I really hope you'll go to our website, the World Bank /Human Capital Project, and look at the data for your country and use it in your work. My background is in human development in different regions here at the World Bank, including in the past with Veronica in the Europe Central Asia region, where we worked with Roma youth and thinking about how to improve their living standards in human capital. So great to meet you all, and I'm looking forward to the session.
Hi, Sean Peterson, help run the IFC's Venture Capital Unit, and we look at a lot of the spaces that these companies that we'll be judging today are in, including EdTech, Health Tech, and many others. My background is two-time founder, and I just wish that I had had opportunities like this before I had started pitching to VCs who turned me down a lot. So anyhow, good luck to all of you. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Georgia Petkowski, currently teaching at Wharton, so I get use of you guys. And I went there after 20 years with the World Bank, understanding the challenges of development and how much development has been misguided because you guys have been not active enough at that time. Now you're active, obviously. So my first thing is think about the substance. Think about the knowledge you have. Are you well equipped for 21st century? I think that's a major challenge. It's fun to have fun, but fun with substance is absolutely unique. So I wish you a lot of luck in that. The other point is that those who didn't win today, don't be very disappointed, because the World Bank has another program. This is the commercial part now, called Ideas for Action. So you'll get the information on that. This is complimentary stuff. We'll give you another chance, but more importantly, you'll get a chance to learn more, not just in a two-day event, but something which goes continuously year after year. So very glad to be here. Looking forward to learn more from you and to shape the world. And you have a big generational responsibility, not only as individuals, not only what you can do with your single project, but what you can do as a generation and what responsibility you have to start taking right now instead of waiting and criticizing us that we are living the world not the way you were expecting from us. Thank you.
Let's give it up one more time for all the judges. All right, with that, I'll hand it back over to Roger.
Here you go. There you go. All right, so it is almost time to bring up the first team, but before we do that, I want to go over the rules so you know how we're going to do this. We have 6 teams presenting. They will each have 6 minutes to pitch their idea here, and then the judges will have 5 minutes to ask them questions. The teams have already been briefed on the rules, so they know exactly how all of this will go. The judges have also been briefed on the criteria and how we will end up with the flow. The judges will wrap their notes up, and as soon as they are done with their notes and their scores, we're going to bring the next team up. So this is going to be very fluid and dynamic. We're going to keep this thing moving. You're not going to hear a lot from me or anything like that. This is really just how do we get the teams going and flowing. So there will be about 2 minutes of transition between each team where we will have the team up here and we will interview them, ask them questions about how they got to this point, not about their ideas, but about how they learn, how they get better, how they build ideas, because I think this is what's going to help all of you. So I want you to stay tuned for that, because that line of questioning and what they're going to share with you will help you figure out what the best practices are to execute your ideas as well. All of you will also have an opportunity to vote for the People's Choice winner. So start taking notes as well on the teams and decide who you would vote for. You will have the opportunity to vote for one team. You will receive a notification via the app the Youth Summit app, which is why I kept talking about the app yesterday. And so in that notification, you will end up, to find your notifications, by the way, you simply go to the menu, activity feed, and then notifications. And you will see it there. It'll be a link. You click on the link. It will take you to a special page. I will repeat these instructions, by the way, when we're ready to do this. And then you can go and vote for the team. You'll have one chance to vote. You'll pick your one team, submit that, and then we will have the People's Choice Award. All of the winners, the judges' winner, the People's Choice winners, will be announced at the end of the day at 6 p.m. during our award ceremony. So we need you all back here. So we have a full afternoon of activities to keep you engaged so that we can then come here and celebrate at the end and listen to those ideas. Finally, we will use the remaining time after the presentations for open mic, like I promised yesterday. So that means that I will be inviting all of you to come up here. I see that smile. You're ready to do this, and you've got that front row spot, so I know you will be pitching later. You will have 1 minute to come up here and pitch your idea. I will set a timer. As soon as you're done, we'll start clapping, we'll move you off, the next person will come on, and we'll keep this thing flowing. The faster we do this, the more people that can pitch. And so many of you raised your hand that you had submitted ideas, but they weren't selected. You're still here, and we appreciate you being here. Perhaps you want to come up and pitch your idea. So keep that in mind. We're going to have that opportunity. How does that sound? Awesome. Very, very good. Are you ready to be present? Say yes. Yes. Awesome. So without further ado, let us welcome our very first contestant, Project Cube. Let's give them a big round of applause.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Chloe. This is my partner Yu Tian, and we are humble and happy to be here to share with you about Project Cube. So the idea came about really when we were in Cambodia a couple of years ago, trying to build up physical infrastructure for them. And we actually met a lot of kids along the way that were out of school. They were out of school because there was not infrastructure around. And we realized that accessibility to education is both the solution and the problem. It is a solution because it can help build human capital, it can enhance social mobility, and it can reduce poverty. I'm sure we can all relate to that. But it is a problem because in many parts around the world, they do not have that access to education. In places with conflicts, 1 in 3 children are out of school. And this problem is excavated every single year where there's just more displacement, more conflicts, and more and more children are out of school. In Southeast Asia alone, the flood last year actually destroyed more than 10,000 schools and left 2 million children out of school. We can say, yes, then let's just build more schools. But we all also know how hard it is to just build more schools, to get them to attend the schools, and not to mention all the golden years lost in between while waiting for the infrastructure to be up. The problems like infrastructure, transportation, resources, and fundings impede this right to education. And this problem doesn't happen just in Southeast Asia. This happens all around the world where there's just displacement, disasters, and conflicts. But we believe that wherever children are, they should have access to education. They should not be denied of this fundamental right to education, where they will actually build cognitive skills, social skills, that will actually stay with them for the rest of their lives. So we started thinking, what if we have an effective and efficient way to solve all these problems? What if they do not have to wait for large amounts of time to wait for infrastructure to be up, to wait for funding to come in? What if we can bring classroom and education right to them? That was when we came up with Project Cube. Essentially, Project Cube has 2 components. One is the physical component, and the other is the digital component. The physical component is a modular mobile classroom where there are learning materials inside, and the units inside are actually modular and interchangeable. The digital component part is a companion mobile app where it has curriculum and teaching guide inside so that it complements the physical part. And we actually solve the problem of lack of resources, infrastructure, and funding.
So this is essentially how the cube looks like and how it unravels. It is made of sustainable, non-toxic materials safe for children. It's a mobile cube about probably the size of this podium, slightly larger. It's easily transportable. 2-person can simply unwrap it, move it around, tweak and move around the modules. And as you can see inside, it contains the essential apparatus, basic equipments for basic education. You have whiteboard, table, shelves, even a first aid kit. And one container is essentially contains all the materials for one subject: mathematics, language, science, so on and so forth. So two-person can easily unpack this, move it around. And for example, if this community needs 2 cubes. 1 cube can cater for about 10 to 15 kids. If this community needs 2 cubes and the other community has like 3 cubes and they want to swap around like language, they're done with language, they want to swap around with the math module, they can easily do that. And what we want to do is to really bring this classroom to the children because we think that it's easy to give learning materials, but what's important is actually for them to have a sense of continuity, a sense that they're really in a classroom learning. And we all know that social cognitive development at early age, 3 to 6, is very important and critical to their future learning environment and their future academic pursuits. So the digital component, we know that tech is a pretty in thing now, it's a buzzword, but what we want to do here is what we have designed here is essentially a simple and intuitive user interface. The content are all downloadable. We now have basic subjects for math, language, as well as science, but we can always swap in, add in more. The content are downloadable. We don't need Wi-Fi, don't need internet access all the time. And what we want to do is really community-facilitated teaching where the older kids or even the adults with just a small learning curve, it's not a steep learning curve, they can download the content, they can teach the younger children. And the modules, of course, are customizable and adaptable. And all we need to do to deploy at different locations is to customize the context. So in terms of deployment, we are more comfortable with targeting the Southeast Asia region at the start because of our experience, but we feel that this is scalable and we can move this anywhere. So in terms of deployment, it's pretty simple. We deploy the cubes based on the necessity, based on the children, based on their age group, and we provide some basic training if necessary to the adults, to the older kids there, obtain the curriculum, the exercises from the app. And the app, if they get internet access, they can update the learning materials, they can even repair the cube if necessary, because these are not advanced materials like your advanced semiconductor parts, things like that, but pretty simple native materials like wood and bamboo, they can repair the cube, and the cube can be reused. So in terms of impact and measurement, we do feel that this will actually help enhance social mobility, and it has economic and social impact. It helps build social capital. This idea essentially is scalable because the components are replicable. We just need to swap in the different containers, the different modules for subjects and learning materials for children of an older age group. Right now, what we are catering for is children for 3 to 6, and the impact are essentially measurable. We can measure it with standardized tests, pre and post tests, longitudinal studies, and so on and so forth. So what we want to do here is to, I would just like to reiterate this, is to really bring this classroom environment to kids anywhere and everywhere in the world so that they have this sense of continuity, keeps them learning, and so that they will not drop out of school, they will not have a lost time, lag time, so on and so forth. So I think I'm running out of time. Thank you very much, and we would love to, we are very happy to be here. And we'd love to take any questions that you guys have. Thank you.
You're ready. And just use the mic.
Thank you for your presentation. Can you clarify the funding model, please?
Okay, so essentially, that's an excellent question. So we actually have a startup running in Singapore. We work with children a lot. So for this particular project, it's our Project Cube, we want it to be more, have a very strong social leaning. But in terms of business model and funding model, we do have a couple that we think of. Because this cube, essentially, it doesn't just cater for children in areas of displacement or in areas of conflict. We can use it in, for example, large childcare chains as well. And essentially, we already have the modules ready. It's just that we have not really put the whole cube together and shipped them around because we didn't really have the need to for the past 2 years. But in terms of funding model, it can be a model where we sell these cubes, sell the modules to the large childcare chains, and a part of it will be donated to help children in these displacement areas. We can also do crowdfunding, or for example, we have some basic modules. Like language, mathematics, science, and then for the additional modules, they are more advanced. So one of the learning material that we have, essentially we design and develop ourselves is, for example, solar panels with electronics. And then kids can learn how to build simple solar cars, things like that. So for this, we can sell them, and we can use them to raise funding. These are more of the advanced additional modules, but for the basic modules, they'll be given for free.
Thanks for your presentation. What are the largest challenges to going to market, bringing this to market?
I guess one of the biggest challenges because it's modular. So in terms of scalability, I think we have to identify what to start with first. Because it's so modular, you can have anything and everything. And we all know, like, with economies of scale, the cost will go down. So yeah, I think that's one of the challenges.
And another key challenge, I think this is an excellent question as well. Another key challenge that we have identified from our experience is that even the Southeast Asia region itself is not homogeneous. There are different languages. In Southeast Asia itself, you have more than 4 or 5 languages, and that's excluding the native language as well. So another key challenge will be to contextualize the learning materials to fit each and to fit the different regions that we are targeting. So for this, we would love to work with locals or even NGOs that are based locally, volunteers, because we really need to kind of contextualize our learning materials. For example, if we want them to learn language, English is pretty easy, we all know English, but want to do a translation mechanism in the app, we will need to work with locals to see how we were to contextualize the cube and things like that. Of course, there are standardized yardsticks as to how we measure education outcomes, but to really contextualize, localize this for the different regions that we're targeting, this is a major challenge as well, as you have, I'm sure you're aware of it.
So thanks for an exciting pitch. You started by saying this was about tackling the infrastructure deficit, but then the cube unfolds within walls. So what are the assumptions about the need, the infrastructure challenge and how this relates? I mean, where are you going to get the infrastructure?
So that video was essentially just a representation, a rendering. We want to show that, so what we want to show, essentially illustrate what we feel very strongly, that we really want to bring the classroom to the children. We don't need 4 walls, technically, that's just a video rendering. We can unpack the cube anywhere, we can unpack it here, we can unpack it in an area where they are, like, it's pretty run down, it's a rural area or even ruins, so we don't technically need 4 walls to do that.
Yeah. I think it's just to emphasize that we really believe that this sense of community is very important in times of displacement and conflicts, this social support.
Yeah, and we really want to bring, like, I know I've said this a couple of times, but we really want to bring the feeling of being in a classroom, being in a community of 10, at least 10, probably 10 to 15, a handful of children, get them together, get them to know that they have something to go to every day to continue being engaged, to continue learning, and this is something that we feel very strongly for, because like what Chloe mentioned earlier, when we were, for example, in Cambodia, we have seen kids, they hung out in areas like temples or other places, and they don't really have this sense of continuity. Yeah. And we also understand that there are a lot of volunteer groups, we acknowledge their efforts that have been helping with like giving books, giving laptop learning materials, but so what we are doing in addition to that is to foster like this sense of classroom and this sense of learning.
We just, great job up there, but quick question, how much does the cube cost? What are the cost of goods sold? And just assume you buy 1,000 units, what is your expected margin on them?
Okay, the prefabricated classroom with walls and everything is like a container, probably costs about 50,000 USD, but for our cube, it's a lot lesser. When we prototype it, it's less than $1,000, but if there's economies of scale, when we are prototyping, of course, we 3D printed some of the parts and things like that, and we are only prototyping it, but with, if we mass produce it, if we have economies of scale, we can easily push it down to less than $500, even less than $200 per se. Yep, and the margins really won't come from the cube itself. The profit, if you're talking about revenue profit, will come from the additional add-ons and the other revenue streams that we have mentioned earlier.
Great. You have just enough time to sneak in one question.
Of the problem you've identified, who are your competitors in the market and how do you compare to that? Also, I have children. What is the durability that you're assuming in this product?
Do you want me to take it?
Sorry, so the competitors, yeah, so actually we saw the Media Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this Media Cube that we just learned about really recently. So the idea is also something about having something that unravels into like a learning environment. But the difference there is that the Media Cube actually has a lot of tablets. It's very tablet, digital intensive, which we think that would drive the cost up. And
significantly.
Yeah, significantly actually. And also in terms of usability, when you're thinking about young children, you really just want it to be simple and intuitive.
And they have a lot of advanced semiconductor parts, and you need probably like a generator energy to power all the tablets. You need Wi-Fi, things like that. So that's our key competitor. In terms of, just wrap this up, in terms of addressing durability, it's pretty durable, I would say. It's wood, bamboo, and I think the whole beauty of this is that if there are little parts that are faulty, the adults, the kids can really fix them together with parts that are easily found. So then it really contributes to learning as well. Yeah, but the key parts, the structure, the frame, the chassis, they are very durable. You can move them around, no problem.
Questions? Molly, can I get you? All right, so while the judges wrap up their questions, and I'll take that from you to make it a little easier. All right, so let me ask you a question. You know, creating a venture obviously takes a lot of work, and there's a lot that needs to be learned. How do you two, and you can both answer this question, learn? How do you decide this is a skill I need to learn, and then what do you do to pursue that skill? From the beginning, when you realize, I don't know this, I have a gap. Who wants to start?
I think it takes a while, but I think it's really about just getting into that mentality that failing is okay. And I think at the start, when you're not that sure, and I think you will never really be sure, and you just really have to go out there and say, okay, one rejection, so be it, like you learn. And it takes a while, but you just really get used to rejection, failures, and when you get used to it, you actually expect another person to reject you, and when you actually get somebody to affirm you, to say yes, that's when like, hey, yay. Yeah.
Positive learnings then at that point. Yeah. How about you? How do you learn a new skill?
So for me, I have to be, I'll just be very honest, my background wasn't in early childhood education. It's in architecture as well as technology policy. But when I was young, I was very close to my mom. I was kind of like brought up by a single parent, my mom. So she used to bring me along, and she was a childcare teacher. So she used to bring me along, and I have to sit down in class while she does her teaching. So it was then that I grew to like kids and grew to like to hang out with kids and work with kids. So initially the kids, they were all, of course, afraid of me, and they would like, look at me and then run away and things like that. But I guess it's a learning journey. You see how other people interact with kids, you start to speak their language, and then you try to pick up the skills that you don't have by asking people, reading and checking other resources. And then eventually, I think I would safely say I get along with kids pretty well now.
Well, that's definitely good to hear, especially given the line of work that you're doing. So the last question before you leave stage, and I'd like to hear one answer from each of you. You know, what is a daily or weekly ritual that you conduct on a daily basis or weekly basis that you believe contributes to your success? Something that you do every day or every week consistently that you believe contributes to your success?
I think for me it's exercising. Like
exercising.
Something as simple as exercising, because I mean, especially when you start to have more and more responsibilities, it's easy to say, I just want to sleep. Mm-hmm. But when you actually pull yourself out of bed and really just make even that 30 minutes exercise regime, you feel so much better about everything. Yeah.
Awesome.
So for me, I try to spend at least 30 minutes every day before I sleep trying to read something, because as we each probably is an expert in one area, there are a lot of things that I feel I don't know, and the more I read, the more I realize that there are more things that I don't know. So I try to spend probably 30 minutes to an hour just reading up on stuff, reading up things that I won't usually read.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's give him one more round of applause. Good job. All right, next up. Where is my next team? Let's get the slides up and to the turnover. Only after the third. All right, come on up. Here's your clicker.
Okay.
It's turned on already.
It's already turned on.
It's ready to go. Your slides will come up momentarily, and then you take over. As soon as you begin, the timer will start right over there.
Okay.
All right. So,
yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Al-Hassan Muniru, co-founder of Recycle Up Ghana. Ghana is a beautiful country blessed with enormous natural and human resources. However, the way we drink water is hurting our country. Every day, 75 million pieces of plastic waste from water cycles is produced in the country. And majority of this waste ends up in open spaces, polluting our environment. Improper disposal of waste severely impedes everyday life in Ghana. In Accra alone, every year there's a lot of flooding. This is as a result of the plastic or majority of the waste choking waterways, causing flooding during rainy season. Also, stagnant water leads to malaria and other waterborne diseases, and this causes huge problems, both environmental and social problems in the country. This is Julius, who's one of our Recycle Up ambassadors. Julius, like many other young Ghanaians, want to do something about local challenges we are facing. However, they need support and resources to be able to do something about that. Ghana has a very youthful population. 41% of the nation's population is between 15 to 34 years. And this presents us with a huge opportunity that we can empower young people to be change makers, because we at Recycle Lab Ghana believe that young people are the current and future change makers of the country. We also share the philosophy that local problem needs to be solved by local people, because they are the ones that are living with the consequences of whatever is happening in society. And as such, when we give them the necessary tools and resources, they can be able to solve societal issues. And that is where we come in as Recycle Lab Ghana. Using design thinking methodology and entrepreneurial training, we designed a summer camp, a 10-day summer camp to train young students to be able to do something about societal challenges. We came up with a 3-phase methodology called the knowledge phase, the experience phase, and the solutions phase, which I'm going to take you through. During the knowledge phase, the students take part in workshops exposing them to sustainable development goals, knowledge about waste management and recycling. We also put a lot of emphasis on soft skills development, because these are the skills that they need to be able to act as society's change agents. In the second phase, which is the experience phase, they go to recycling firms, they go outside, they go to waste management, the landfill sites, they go outside, they talk to people. Basically, they experience and appreciate how the problem is affecting society. Now, in the last phase, they have the knowledge, they have the experience. What do they do with it? We pair them with mentors, they work in teams, and they brainstorm, and they come up with practical solutions, what they want to do after the summer camp. In the end, we empower them to become Recycle Lab ambassadors. We started in 2014, and since then we've organized 7 Recycle Lab summer camps, training over 180 Recycle Lab ambassadors. We have raised over 150,000 euros through several grants and award competitions. And we have, through our multiplicator effect, we have empowered over 8,000 Ghanaians who are working on various projects, and have helped divert over 15 metric tons of plastic waste to recycling every year. We are currently being incubated at the Watson Institute in Boulder, Colorado, where we are further working on our ideas for the next coming years. What are some of the outcomes that have come out of the camp? The students came up with a project called Recycle Up Your School, where they collect plastic waste and sell them to recycling firms. They also do upcycling projects where they turn some of the plastic waste into other projects. And here you can see we did a project with some students from Turkey where we built a school out of plastic bottles. We also had the Queen of Belgium visiting Ghana, where she wanted to see some of our projects, and she went to a school, one of our schools, where the students were pitching what they have been working on. Here I came up with one of the examples of what the students do in some of our upcycling projects, where you see they made a shopping bag out of plastic water bottle sachets. And these are all add up several practical solutions where the students have come up with from our summer camps. Our work will not be possible without our amazing and multi-talented team made up of bright minds from Europe and Ghana, and we have a background from design thinking to environmental resource management to sustainable development. What are the next steps? We currently, over the past 4 years, we've worked with zero infrastructure. We've been working from the university campuses and from co-working spaces. And in order to scale up our work, we are looking to set up our Waste Innovation Center in Ghana, which will house all our activities that we want to do. Through the help of our 2 awesome team members, Yusra and Lauren, who are architects, they've designed our innovation center, which will be built out of recyclable and waste recovered materials. It's going to be fully sustainable building. And this is going to help us train more innovation change makers who are going to solve society's challenges in the coming years. We need your help. We call on you to support us, help us empower the young future change makers, the innovators in Ghana who are going to be solving society's challenges. And at Recycle Lab Ghana, we help unleash the potential of future change makers in Ghana. Come to us, let's talk after this, and then let's see how we can get you on board. Thank you.
Thanks so much for a really inspiring talk. What are the obstacles to going to scale? I mean, your model is summer camps, but why couldn't this be done in schools?
Yeah, thank you. So the summer camps were the first activities that we've been doing. Actually, we also work in schools as well, where we go to the schools and work with them. What makes the summer camps much more interesting is we have the students for 2 weeks. We have an intense training for them, and with that, we are able to do more. With going to the schools, it's a bit more challenging where we need to sort of like divide the curriculum over a period of time. However, we won a grant for 80,000 euros where over the next 3 years, we are going to work with 90 schools in Ghana. And together with the ministry, we are going to work in schools. And the idea is to come up with a standardized curriculum to be used for training schools, students also in Ghana. So that's also part of our upcoming activities. Yeah.
How are you thinking to engage with the private sector? So obviously waste management is a huge issue and there's a growing business as well. So
Yes.
there is a potential for-profit side to taking this waste out of the streets. How are you thinking about that?
Yes, thank you. So we do work with the private sector. Our project, which is the Recycle Up Your School project, we don't do the recycling ourselves. So when the students collect the waste from the schools, we supply them to existing recycling firms because they need those materials. So we collect the waste and then we give them to the recycling firms. Last year also, fortunately for us in Ghana, there's a new initiative called the Ghana Recycling Initiative by private enterprises called GRIPE, which is made up of the big companies such as Unilever, Guinness Ghana Limited, Dow Chemicals, and they have been brought together and they've set aside a fund to support local plastic recycling initiative, and we are already engaging with the private sector to help speed up the work that we are doing. Yeah, thank you.
What criteria do you use when you're selecting the participants for the summer school?
Thank you. So we work with, we have an application process. So first we go to the schools and talk to them because we need the support. We want the schools to become our partners also. So we give our application forms to the schools, and then the school give them to the students. So they apply. We have a 2-step application process where we first shortlist the applicants. And since it's a limited number of students, we can only have a summer camp with no more than 30 students. It's a scholarship for them. It's completely fully funded. So it's also pretty competitive. So we interview them, and then we select the students who are able to attend the summer camp. And afterwards, through the multiplicator effect, the students, when they go back to their schools, they have set up recycling clubs in their schools, and then they also further share the knowledge that they learned from the camp with their fellow participants who were not able to make it to the camp. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about your long-term vision for the business model and how the Innovation Center relates to that?
Thank you. So the Innovation Center is really going to serve as the catalyst for what we do. When we have that, we're going to have makerspace also in the building. We're going to have several workshops. It allows us to be able to hold multiple workshops over a period of time because then we don't have challenges with logistics and other issues. We also plan to have an incubator program where some of the ideas that need more long-term nurturing would further have more time to sort of go through an incubator program. And with that, if you're able to build successful startups that are solving society's challenges, that can also sort of serve as one revenue stream also where those startups will also bring in some profit also to the activities that we are running. Yeah. Thank you.
A quick question: How do they keep connected afterwards? I don't know if you missed. I may have missed that.
Okay, thank you. So we have an alumni network, and we for every summer camp. So the simplest one is we have an alumni network where we have a WhatsApp group, a Facebook group, but also we stay connected with them, and also they stay connected together through the multiple workshops that we do. We always invite them for activities that we do, and we have what we call a chaperone. So each school has a specific member from our team who is chaperoning the ambassadors from that school. So we always stay connected through our designated chaperone who is liaisoning with the team and our team as well. So this helps us to stay connected, and we always invite them to come for activities, and we also check on what they are doing. Yeah.
Just real quick, how many students have you taught over the summer, and then maybe how many students have you reached in schools during the school year?
Yes, so for the summer camps, we've already done 7 summer camps in 3 different regions, and each summer camp has a student participant of 30 students. And then we've done several workshops in the schools. We've done some schools have maybe a population of over 2,000 students where we've done a big workshop in the school, and then even during that, there is the students themselves that are talking to the school. So with the multiplicator, I estimated that we've reached over 8,000 students through several workshops and talking to schools, not only in high schools, but also in the universities also, yeah.
Out of time. Let's give him a big round of applause. So let's step over here, right over here. So while the judges finish their notes, let me ask you a couple of questions. Yeah. So obviously a lot of work has gone into this, and I think we can all agree that you have a lot of drive and you have persisted in bringing this to fruition and reality. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspires you to stay on this journey?
Thank you for the question. It's very challenging, actually, because I remember when we started back in 2014, I was still doing my undergrad back in Ghana, and I had to miss some classes and all of this, and it has always been challenging. Even right now, it's still challenging. But I think what inspires me is when you see, during the first summer camp, so at the end of the camp, we have what we call the grand finale, where the students will present the ideas to the general public. And you see the transition the students have gone through from the first day when we try to get them to pitch, and then they are shaking, and when they come on stage to pitch the idea to the general public, even their parents come to us and say, I never knew my child could talk like this. And that sense, that alone is so inspiring that when you see that, you're like, this is why we should keep on doing what we are doing. So that inspires me to be able to do more.
That is a powerful motivator. You know, as a former educator of young people, when I taught math, that was exactly what drove me. When parents would say that, my daughter never had that confidence in math, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Tell me a little bit about what you do to continue learning on your journey. Yeah. You know, when you identify a gap and you're like, I need to learn that. Yeah. How do you go about that?
I'm a pretty geeky person. I love self-development, so it's all about like continuous learning, continuous self-improvement. I read a lot. I'm always, watching a lot of like TikTok videos, like anything that I don't know. Actually, this gave me, my friends gave me the nickname. They call me Control Babs. They say I know everything because like knowledge is power. So you sort of like, so that's what I do. I read a lot. I research a lot. If I don't know something, I ask. And then I just keep on improving because that is the only way, what you know, nobody can take it away from you. So you just have to just keep on learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, those are 2 very inspiring answers. I just don't feel like there's another question I can ask to follow that up. Let's give him one more round of applause.
Thank you.
All right. And our next team.
Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome. Whenever the timer will begin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elisa Mansur. I am from Brazil, and I'm the founder of MOPI, which is short for Movimento pela Infância in Portuguese. In Brazil, 70% of children between 0 and 4 years old do not have access to quality learning opportunities. That is 7 million children. And there are 3 main reasons why this happens. The first one is that private daycare centers are too expensive, so not everyone can afford them. The second one is that public daycare centers don't have enough vacancies to supply for the existing demand. So all over the country, there are huge wait lists. And the third one is that actually some parents don't even trust public daycare centers because of stories of violence and physical punishment. Brazil's lack of investment in early childhood is a huge drawback to the country. According to research from James Heckman, a Nobel Prize winner in economy, and the Harvard Center on the Developing Child, for every dollar that we do not invest in the first years of life, society misses $4 to $9 in return. And it is to change that situation that we have created MOPI. MOPI is a network of community and home-based daycare centers in Brazil. MOPI leverages the work of community mothers, women from low-income neighborhoods and slums, who charge a small fee to take care of around 6 to 12 children in her own home. But today, Those women lack support from governmental institutions and private organizations. They're simply neglected. But we deeply believe that by empowering those women, they can help children develop, reach their full potential, and be ready for school. MOPI's solution is based on 4 main pillars. The first one is the vetting process, through which we select the community mothers that are going to be a part of the network. The second pillar is our training program, a day-long bootcamp that discusses the concept of a child, the role of a caretaker, and other very important aspects to build a positive learning environment. The third pillar is our standard model, just like a franchising. So it goes all the way from how the space is structured, how the daily routine is organized, until what are the activities and tools that are available for community mothers to use with the children. The fourth and last pillar is quality management. Those are periodic visits and follow-ups to guarantee that the community mothers are meeting the standards. And this is mainly important because of those stories that parents heard about violence and physical punishment in public daycare centers. So I've created MOPI because of a personal passion for education, and I wish to build systemic and effective change in the sector in my own country. I was born and raised in Brazil and have been involved with educational projects since I was 16 years old, so that's around 10 years now. So I have also experience with evidence-based philanthropy and launching social ventures in my country. Since the beginning of this year, I have been working together with the MIT Legatum Center for Social Entrepreneurship. We did extensive research on the ground to deeply understand what are the challenges, the pain points, and the urgent needs for early childhood education in the country. We have also benchmarked models all over the world to understand what is already out there, what works, what doesn't work. And right now, in the next few weeks in January, we'll be piloting our standard model in the first centers with the first community mothers in Southeast Brazil. We're very excited about that. So MOPI is a social venture, and its business model is based on a franchising fee from community mothers. But once they are part of the network, they do not only learn new skills and more about early childhood, but they also can increase their income because they can reach more families and provide a better service for them. If Brazil were to continue with its current investment rate and strategy in early childhood, simply by building new public daycare centers, it would take the country 25 years to meet 50% of the demand. MOPI is an innovative and rapidly scalable solution to guarantee that we're going to serve children in the first years of their life. MOPI's mission is to guarantee that children all over Brazil will have access to affordable daycare center and quality early childhood education and learning opportunities. So today, I would love to hear your feedback, your ideas, and your suggestions, because we deeply believe that learning should start on day one. And with MOPI, it will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
One quick question. What's the incentive for the moms to come in and, participate? How do you reach them?
Yes. So we're working with on-the-ground partners that are already working, have social projects in the slums, and they are helping us connect with those community mothers. So they are our reference today. And for the community mother, the benefit is not only that because today they are neglected, so nobody gives them any resources or anything, we're providing them with play kits, training, so everything they have never received. And now they are also be able to increase their income because they'll be able to reach more families, and they will be able also to increase the price that they're charging because of a better service provided.
Thanks for a great presentation. And what are the incentives then for families to send their children to these groups or centers?
Yeah, so they already send children to those centers, even with the lower quality service. Because today they cannot afford the private daycare centers, they don't trust public daycare centers, or they are in a huge wait list because they can get a vacancy in a public daycare center. So they already send their children there, and right now they will have a better service and better learning opportunities for their children.
So just, by the way, great job on presenting, and hopefully you had a chance to look at the Wonder School model. There's
yes,
a lot of parallels.
Exactly, I met them.
Great. So just for my own clarity, what are the actual services? Is it very similar to the Wonder School model, where you're providing billing, online booking for parents, questions, answers? Could you just go a little bit more into the value prop for?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, so from what I understand from the Wonder School model, they are right now more focused on the management side of the home-based daycare centers. I think in Brazil, we're still one step back. So right now, we're more focused on offering the community mothers training about caretaking, about early childhood, and offering them toys and play kits so that they can use that with the child during the day. I'm certain that in the future, as we structure and consolidate our model, that this will be a great way to go. But right now, our value proposition is more on the pedagogical aspect, the organization of the space, the organization of the routine, and the offering of toys and play kits.
Unemployment is a big issue, especially in that part of Brazil. So in addition to the mothers, are you considering possibility of having some kind of assistance? That will be high school kids who spend some hours there to also get exposure to real life things, to get responsibility, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is a great idea, and I appreciate that. That's definitely something that we can consider. So informal work in Brazil is growing like almost exponentially. So today we have more informal workers than formal workers in Brazil. So it's around 34 million informal workers. So this is a big thing right now. But we definitely can work maybe with people that are in university or just finished university and want some real on-the-ground experience with early childhood education. I think this would bring valuable value to the children and to the students as well. Thank you for the idea.
For your upcoming pilot,
yes.
Congratulations, by the way, how are you collaborating with local government? Are they very receptive? Are there regulatory issues? Are they feeling crowded out?
Yeah, so today, governments don't support in any way the work of community mothers. So for this pilot, we're not working with the government, but we are working with local entrepreneurs and local leaders in slums and low-income neighborhoods that already do some training work, some youth development, and they are our big partners in this piloting right now. The government will be a key player in future once we can, I think, show the results and the impact that we're building along with community mothers. But today we're working with on-the-ground partners, just as nonprofits and entrepreneurs.
Can you tell us more about the business model?
Yes. So the business model today is structured with franchising fee for community mothers, and this doesn't work as normal franchising fees just upfront. It's a monthly fixed fee, which is about the same value of what a community mother gets for one child, which is around $30. So that's what we charge them in this first structure of our business model, and it's a monthly fixed fee. And in the beginning, up front, we provide them with the play kit that I briefly mentioned before and the training. So they have this initial value, and then with time, they will increase their income because of more families and a better quality service as well.
Awesome.
Okay, let me try. I had a lecture yesterday at Wharton, so we have one of the biggest real estate guy from the United States investing in Brazil. 80% of the conversation was around corruption.
Yes.
So I don't know how to phrase that, but approaching the local government, do you potentially expect that corrupt local officials might create problems that you haven't put yet in your business plan?
That is always something that can happen, but what we are doing goes above that, goes beyond that. So we're never gonna let that be an obstacle to what we want to do with the children. So no matter what happens, we'll figure out a way to ethically continue and help children between 0 and 4 years old really be ready for school and reach their full potential.
Come over here to this part right there. Awesome. So while the judges wrap up their comments, this is, I could tell through your presentation how motivated and driven you are. This is something you're very passionate about. But no doubt, just like any passion that we run into in life, passions can also let us down, right? They can hurt us and we experience failure. Can you share a failure that was difficult, perhaps related to Movi or something else that you've been doing that took you some time to overcome, but you have overcome?
Yes, a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes, and that's actually how I believe that we reach and achieve what we want to achieve. So I have received a lot of no's about competitions that I applied to, like boot camps that I wanted to join, and there were a lot of no's, But what I've learned throughout the process, and in the beginning it was harder, but is that you can get 99 no's, but if you get one yes, that's all you need to move forward. So I think that's one of the learning.
Tell us about something that you practice, perhaps a ritual, that you believe helps you succeed, that helps you be more effective in your work.
More effective in my work. I think it's, maybe I like to do to-do lists. Maybe that's one thing. So to remember what I have to do. But for example, maybe before presentations like this, there is one song that I like to listen.
Okay.
That helps me a lot. It's If I Can Dream from Elvis Presley.
There we go.
Not a very common one, but...
Add this to your playlist.
That's it.
So that's one of your rituals that, when do you use that? When do you actually turn that on?
The song?
What's the exact moment? Yeah, what's the exact moment that you turn it on?
So like this morning before coming here.
Ah, there we go. I love it. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice that you would share with the audience? You know, they're at the beginning of their journey. What's something that you would say to them to help encourage them through that beginning, to get their idea off the ground?
Yeah, I think we're all in the same position here, so we are all just starting together. But I think that one advice is like, the hardest thing to me is taking the first step. Once you take the first step, everything there goes exponentially to what you want to achieve. So taking the first step is my advice.
That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, let's get our next team on stage. Let me get the slides ready. Here we go. There is your, as soon as you begin, the timer will begin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Binayak, and I come from that part of India, which unfortunately has one of the worst human development indexes. I come from a humble background and have been really fortunate to receive a decent education. Unfortunately, 250 million children in India don't have access to a good, decent education. Well, I could have been among those 250 million children, but here I am in front of you, presenting before you a solution which has the potential to improve the learning outcomes of children in India as well as across the globe. So we at ThinkZone use accessible technology to provide quality early grade education while simultaneously creating dignified livelihoods for women. Our platform, which uses offline technology, is used by local community tutors who happen to be women to implement primary grade and early childhood education programs. We are a low-cost operations model and use the teaching at the right level approach, which is a MIT evidence-based pedagogy, which focuses on no-frills education, but on the learning outcomes of children. We are sustainable and scalable because we are a no-frills, as I mentioned, a model, and use technology to not even implement programs, but also to improve the skills of women. So all in all, we are focusing, so it's a 360-degree solution, which is working on both the pillars of the human capital. So some of these women who are from the grassroots, who are from villages, and are devoid of education and livelihood opportunities, are trained and equipped by us to earn their livelihoods and get jobs in their own village. For children who are going to government schools or government-sponsored childcare centers but are not learning anything, our platform helps them improve their learning outcomes and reach their age-based learning. Till now, we have been present, I'm from Odisha, so we are there in 5 districts of Odisha. We are working with 105 women. We have created 105 jobs. We are present in 350 villages, directly enrolled 2,500 plus kids, and have an indirect impact on 12,500 population. So what is the model all about? So it is a simple grassroots campaign that we run, wherein we identify the area of operations, select local women who have the potential to be change makers, train them with our platform and our technology, give them the low-cost school-in-a-box solution, wherein then they start implementing programs at their own homes. So we are asset light. We don't require a space to run our programs. Apart from that, we also enroll parents who don't, like we have children who are not coming to these learning centers started by women. We start with a subscription-based program wherein we engage with the parents to work on basic hygiene practices for kids and all small things wherein kids at an early age start learning well. The impact so far, well, we have been, so our program have been running for the past 2.5 years. So there has been an average 50% increase in their learning levels across different skills for both the programs. Another interesting aspect is that our women entrepreneurs have started earning well, and it has led to a 40% average increase in their earning potential. So they're helping their families significantly. We are running, as I mentioned, a low-cost sustainable operations, which is scalable and we are profitable from day one. And in terms of the operations, we have a healthy gross margin of 30 to 35%. Because children come and directly pay fees in semi-annually and annually format, so that, and in the long run, we happen to break even or cover our entire CapEx in 13 months. Yeah. So in less than $200, we are educating 40 plus children every year and simultaneously helping get a job for a woman for a lifetime. So what's next right now? So we are in the B2C phase wherein we are directly enrolling parents through our program. What we want to do is that partner with other nonprofits and social enterprises who use our platform to implement these programs at their own places. In the long run, we want that our platform is used by the local government, and we want to train the early childhood workers who happen to be in respective villages so that they can use our platform to teach kids in the community. We have already started a pilot of a SMS integrated basis community-based subscription model, which adds as another revenue source for our entire business. All in all, in 2023, we want to reach to 1 million children and create 10,000 jobs for women. Well, we have been doing it for the past 2.5 years right now. We have made mistakes on ground. We have pivoted our business model. Right now, we require people to help us reach the next stage. We are really passionate bunch of individuals, and we are looking for a rural immersion fellowship program, which we are starting in our individual villages. So I'm really happy to get associated with the exciting batch of people who are over here to discuss my ideas and help us take us to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. You talked a lot about outcomes.
Yeah.
How do you know that the outcomes have actually improved?
Yeah. So we have, so this is so we have a baseline test for all the children who get enrolled. So what we find out is that a child who is going to a grade 4, so should be like at a paragraph level in English, is not even at an alphabet level. So we identify that this is the level of a child, and over a 5-month remedial program, what happens is that the child moves from an alphabet level to a sentence level, from a sentence level to a paragraph level. So that is how we sort of judge the learning outcomes of a child. Similarly, for the early childhood program, what we do is we again have a baseline test where we focus them on basic 5 skills of physical, social and emotional learning and memory. In those parameters, we again judge the child in terms of their development. Yeah, so this is for the primary grade, and so this is the test which we had for last year, wherein we had a 2-level jump from what they had over a period of time.
Yeah. So just, by the way, great presentation, and it was nice to see you had a connection to the United Seed Fund folks. Yeah. So I see some Q math aspects in this. But that's another great company. So just maybe help us understand the actual revenue flow and in essence the business model, because I'm a little confused. And then you threw out at the very end there's a 13-month payback for CapEx.
Yes.
So explain that too. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. So so the revenue models is simple. We have a B2C program wherein the parents enroll their kids to these, you can say, learning centers run in the village. Dollars per month. So the dollars is in the range of like $2 to $3. It's like on a fees $25 to $40 annually. So this is the program. And in terms of like, this is the basic, you can say the unit economics that we have and which is working well for us. What is happening is that since it's low cost, we are not spending anything on marketing. It directly happens to like through a grassroots level, like approach, marketing approach. In that way, we are able to recover our costs. So what is the cost involved in terms of the CapEx? It's basically a tablet provided by us. We are not charging the entrepreneurs right now, but then when we are reaching the next stage, we are looking into the possibility of getting some amount of money from them. So right now, we are just looking for scale, looking for revenues. In the next stage, we would want that ideally some percentage of the CapEx is being recovered from the micro entrepreneur. That is what the plan is. Apart from this model, we have another model wherein we have a SMS-based subscription model, wherein parents who are not sending their kids to these learning centers are also subscribing to our plans. So that is like a $1 annually, a $1 monthly, which happens, and it gets, and these modules are covered by the parents, which gets monitored by these micro entrepreneurs who happen to visit their houses.
How do you update the content? You talked about offline use.
Yes.
How do you update and scale?
Okay. So, the offline application is like in case you don't have internet connectivity, so you have the lesson plans which is being fed into the system. So, but then you require one-time data syncing, wherein that happens, the data which is fed on an offline mode gets connected to the cloud. Similarly, like say when you have internet connectivity, the lesson plans gets updated also. So even though it's offline for implementation, but we require at least one time of say data syncing in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time to update the data.
And can you explain what happens to the kids? So this, you said this is early childhood. So
Yeah.
what age, and do they move into primary school?
Yes, yes. So we have two programs. One is an early childhood program. One is a primary level program. In early childhood program, so what is the scene in India is that children are not going to government schools. So they're enrolled in a government-sponsored childcare center. So what happens is that these kids are not getting access to good education early on. So what happens is that when they're not ready for formal schooling, we work on these 4 skills so that kids become ready to go to school and have the appropriate skills. Similarly, for the primary level program, we know kids are going to schools, but unfortunately, they're not learning anything. So what we want is that over a period of, say, 1 year, 2 years down the line, we are helping them improving their learning outcomes in arithmetic and language. So this is the two. So one is, you can say, an early childhood program. The second one is a bridge remedial program that we are running.
Forgive me if I missed, where is your curriculum and content coming from? Are
Yes.
you designing this
Yeah.
uniquely, or are you piggybacking on something else?
Yes. So the videos and everything is open source. The content, the lesson plan is our own proprietary content. So it is made in English and also in local languages. So we are not creating anything from scratch. Like we are not building the videos. So we are using Khan Academy videos, but the lesson plans are structured by us. So even if we are using open source early childhood videos, but how to use it, where to use it is where we come into the picture.
You mentioned 1 million by 2023.
Yeah.
So 4 years from now, 1 million. What are the obstacles to achieving that, and how are you going to get over those obstacles?
Okay. First of all, we want to reach scale on a private basis by a B2C mode where we directly want to. So ideally by the next 1.5 years, we want to directly reach to 11,000 kids. What happens is that when we are working, partnering maybe with a public institution and also with big enterprises or foundations, what happens is that our program runs on a B2B mode, wherein their reach and scale is larger. So we become like a program partner for them so that we are not directly enrolling kids. So they happen to, so suppose they have a base of 5,000 kids, so simply our program gets implemented. So that is how we are looking to scale. The challenges obviously will be finding a revenue model in the government stream, wherein we want to have like a agreement with other foundations who fund this program, because government at this limited scale won't be like paying for this program at right now. But what we think is that if we are able to achieve scale and show learning outcomes development, then it will lead to, you can say, partnering with government and helping get an alternate revenue. So that is the 2 challenges that I feel.
We are out of time.
Thank you.
Join me over here. I'll
Okay.
take this.
Okay.
Join me right over there. All right. So while the judges wrap up their notes, tell us a little bit about some of the, I would say, oh, come a little bit more up here. Tell us a little bit more about some of your own practices in terms of, I would say, when it comes to the business, when it comes to creating this, when you sit down to work on this every day, what are some of your rituals for the business specifically? Maybe not for yourself, but for the business.
I understand. So since we happen to do this for like 3 years right now, the first thing, and since we have already started, like we have a team at the grassroots level also, the first thing as entrepreneurs we should always be doing is having constant communication with the field team. Like even if we are there and we are managing strategic decisions, it does not mean that we are not in constant communication. That is how we should be able to like learn more about the business. And then also we should be always be there, like say for example, for the first 1 year, I took the programs myself to understand like what was there. Communicate. So at the first 50 or 60 customers, I was pitching to the parents.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things, like even if there is some challenges, so what I feel is that like you should be there in the ground as an entrepreneur, even if it's like a scale model and all, but you should be there in the field, taking up the challenges yourself.
Absolutely, and you mentioned, going through the programs yourself.
Yes.
And yesterday we heard Doug talking about, eating your own dog food, as he put it. But essentially, you have to use your own product. You
Exactly.
So that's one of your key practices.
Yes.
Tell us about a failure that you encountered along the journey to building this.
Okay, so not many know this, but we have pivoted our model. So we were like initially right now I pitch like it's an asset-light model, but we started with a center-based model, and it was running decently. But then there is realized that it can't scale maybe to the next level. So that is how us we learned and we pivoted. So even if like that is also one of the hard decisions as an entrepreneur you have to take, that even if something is working, but then if you want to move to the next level. So that is one of the mistakes I learned over the period of time.
Our last presenter talked about taking that first step and getting started. What advice would you give to the audience here and those watching on live stream in terms of getting started? Perhaps something that worked for you when you were getting started with this idea, those first steps.
So I think it's just close your eyes and start. So sometimes what happens is that maybe in management education and everything, you tend to think too much. Strategize, oh, we should do this, we should do that. But then at the end of the day, just close your eyes and start.
Just get going with the, exactly.
That's the best learning we'll be getting.
Otherwise, you can sit there and think all day.
Exactly.
And then you have nothing to show for it.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for that. Great advice.
Thanks, guys.
Great job. All right, let's get the next. Whoops. There we go. And whenever you are ready, the timer will begin.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We're the co-founders of Bitaya Technologies. My name is Gemma Torres, and my co-founder is Shanna Cramley. And today we would like to tell you the story of Aya. Aya is a 70-year-old young woman that wants to become a civil engineer. 2 years ago, when she graduated from high school, she had to flee Syria and went to Jordan, in Amman. And there she has been taking a number of educational opportunities in web development and coding to be equipped for her future. However, when Aya gets ready to apply to university, she doesn't have a way to prove her learning and achievement. And if she wants to get a job, she doesn't have a way to show the skills she has earned. Like Aya, there is a huge generation of youth, including refugees and displaced individuals, that cannot prove their past education and experience due to the lack of international recognition mechanisms and a huge gap on data of refugee youth. Therefore, employers face barriers in accessing this human capital. Bitaya offers the solution, the Digital Backpack CB. It's a platform powered by blockchain that you can verify, match, and store credentials, references, and skills. We aim to develop human capital, unlock transferable skills, and therefore match talented youth with employers. So how our product works? We have on one side for the primary user, the application mobile, where they can create their own profile. It's public. They manage the digital backpack, and then can request to the employer the verification of the credential. On the other side, the employer manages the web portal and can verify this credential, and they both sing in a database. Why blockchain? So for the first time, thanks to this cutting-edge technology, we can provide them with a lifetime portable digital identity that doesn't depend on a central authority. Moreover, we can provide a system that they can certify credentials in a secure way and make them tamper-proof. And finally, we can implement privacy by design technologies protecting their data protection. So how this product fits into our market?
Bitaya lies at the center of three key markets. First are our primary users, displaced youth who are facing rising levels of inequality, unemployment, changes in the labor force, automation, mass migration. A lot of change is happening in the next few years. Secondly, recruiters and employers are facing high levels to onboard talent, which is hard to find. They're also looking for untapped markets like ours. And finally, they're looking to fill jobs that are coming up in the future. There's an estimated 86 million jobs that will be unfilled if the skills aren't matched correctly in the future and by 2030. And our third market are educators, trainers, service providers, UN agencies, anyone who's supporting youth to equip them for those future jobs with the training, with the skills, with the 21st century skills, but they don't have a way to provide a certificate with a currency. How does it work from a business perspective? Our sustainability derives from a three-tiered revenue model. We're focusing on doing a licensing model to implementing partners and also employers to license the platform usage. And then in platform, so in the marketplace and the exchange of credentials, we'll be charging in-platform fees for the exchange. So any transaction, so to speak. So a sending of a badge, receiving a badge, and that verification that puts it into the blockchain. And thirdly, finally, we'll be pulling GDPR-compliant aggregated data insights, which will be useful to both partners and to employers, to pull and put some light on this population and see exactly what is happening with this demographic, with these labor trends, what skills are now available, what skills could be matched to potential jobs. As a social enterprise, our bottom line is our mission, and we measure our impact in a few ways. First, we focus on the IRIS social impact standards, their metrics, and then also we pull a lot of inspiration from the SDGs. So particularly education, decent work, and reduced inequality overall are our focus as well, because we're really focused on bringing youth into the job force, into education, and equipping them with the skills that they're able to actually get back to that decent work. That's what we're planning to do in our pilot next. Oops, okay. Sorry about that. So for our pilot, we're zooming in on the MENA region for a couple different reasons for our first cohort. First, the region is facing the largest population of youth in its history, which is incredible, but they're facing a 31% youth unemployment rate, which is unprecedented. That is coupled with the region also facing the most refugees, or hosting the most refugees per capita, which creates two large populations that aren't quite getting into work or having the opportunities, which will be in further implication in the future. Most at risk in this population are the refugee youth, because they are the ones that are very currently now unable to access education and work. And so from this moment forward, if they're not able to get that access, then they'll be left behind indefinitely. Our next steps are to develop. We're pushing our MVP, or our prototype. We have a wireframe, pushing that to development, and we are hiring a CTO if you know anyone. We're also then pushing that into the pilot, and we're going to be testing our proof of concept and the product market fit. So testing it out with 750 users in Jordan with the implementing partners we've been building over the last year. And finally, we'll refine that to scale to other populations like Aya, to bring that backpack to more populations. By unleashing Aya's skills and her knowledge and her resilience, all of her human capital, we're able to put some of that power back into Aya's hands so that she's able to access that career as a civil engineer that she wanted and get back into the workforce and get decent work and continue with her future, releasing her or fulfilling her full potential. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. What considerations do you give to data privacy, especially given the nature of the markets that you're looking at relative to government intervention?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to leverage Sovereign, which is a decentralized blockchain technology, and they mainly work through distributed and decentralized identifiers and claims, and they try to avoid the correlation. So every time there's a claim and there's a verification, there's no correlation with other factors, so the data is not spread without the consent of the user, as well as we are studying a lot the GDPR standards, and we're trying to implement them in every single stage of the design. So basically blockchain, why blockchain? I was saying the main reason, so privacy is one of them because it's already embedded and privacy by design is already implemented in that specific technology.
Could I just, great job, and just for clarification, I'm pretty familiar with the handshake and learning machine models, and I certainly think there's some parallels. So I'm just interested in your go-to-market, because you really have a supply, which is students, and verification folks, which is either employers or universities, question mark. So I'm trying to think of how do you build that up in a cost-effective way and then deal with refugees as well?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And that is something that we've been dealing with even recently as we're building out this pilot and trying to figure out how to scale from a pilot further to sustainability. I think that in the midterm or in the short term, where we're looking at this from an implementing partner perspective, so trying to build up as much traction on the platform in partnership with organizations. So more on the UN side, we've been building partners with UN, NGOs. So build traction that way, and then have a even more credible and marketable campaign by the time we get to.
I call that the bingo model, B to NGO. Be careful.
Okay.
Could you explain the third market, which was the educators and the trainers? I mean, what's in it for them, and how do they access that? I understand sort of the matching and the verification of credentialing that you're doing between the youth and the employers, but then how does this third group fit in?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that, because that's actually where we began, and we've come forward all the way to this marketplace and identifying more partners. We started at it from that angle of how can we help the service providers? So how can we help the people who are running the large numbers of some of these populations, trying to help a large scale at a time? And one of the key issues that they didn't have was that they didn't have any way to transport that information, any way to really streamline information. There's a lot of different siloed databases and kinds of databases, and even the age range for what a youth is varies from agency to agency. So our idea was to come in and provide something that's a very low lift to those partners, that they can just create badges for these students and not have to worry about keeping all of those different lists separately. So it's one part database and one part the marketplace. Does that answer your question?
It seems a validation of decentralized credentials is one problem, but acceptance of those credentials by authorized, industry-recognized folks is another challenge. How will you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is the challenge of using a cutting-edge technology that is evolving every single second as we speak. So right now, we have like 3 different technologies that we could have been using. There's Bitcoin that was more created for global cryptography, and then we have Ethereum, which was more focused on smart contracts and like financial. And then we have this new application, which is called Sovereign. It's the main focus. It's only built to build. It's a public permission blockchain, and it's enhancing trust and building reputation. So the whole purpose of this application is to focus on this. And of course, as you say, it's a change of paradigm, and it takes the stakeholders to trust this technology. Right now, it's already applied by other startups in the field that are doing different things than us, but that it's successful. Like, for example, Tycoon, they are using this for birth certificates, and it's being accepted every day more and more. But definitely it's something that we will have to keep working on it, especially in our pilot, maybe to our first partners, to try to embrace how it works and then try to validate it in every single stage as it works.
Just building on that, for your pilot in Jordan, are there certain kinds of employers that you're targeting, that you're trying to raise awareness with, as opposed to every kind of employer under the sun?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Jordan's an interesting case, which some of the factors don't scale exactly. It's a very unique case for the refugees, especially. But there's actually recent refugee-specific research from Talent Beyond Borders, and they found that the majority, or the main skills, the top skills that refugees possessed in that survey were ICT skills, certain kinds of digital computer skills, communication skills. Those are some of the top 3. And so we've seen that there is a presence of that kind of skill. Now, the matching to the employer side, this model's being done in some ways by some of the coding camps in Jordan, so existing employee connections, I suppose. And so we're kind of trying to fit in between both help those employers reach those, like REAP boot camp and that kind of a training academy, and then also put them into other jobs that are available in that area. So we know that there's demand in the sector, and we know that there's supply as well.
Yeah. Also, adding to what my colleague said, especially IT skills, it's something that we're looking at because as we have been talking in this summit, especially yesterday, automation is going to replace jobs, and different technologies are going to change the workforce trends. So we want to adapt to this and be able to anticipate for our users what is the supply and what is the demand, and that's why we also want to focus on the IT industry as well.
Just to add to that, I think that Jordan, we assume that refugees are staying in Jordan, but there's also this transfer of skills that's going from country to country. So it's a big assumption to think that they will stay in that sector, but if it's something that's transferable from the sector in Jordan back to Syria or onto a third country, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. stay right over here. I'll take that. Thank you. All right, so while the judges, and come a little closer over here. Yep, perfect. So while the judges wrap up their notes, can you share with us a fear that you had to overcome in building this out?
You said you would ask easy questions.
That's coming up, I promise.
Fear.
Fear.
A fear that you had to overcome in starting this project.
This project, okay.
Yeah.
I think just the idea of starting a social enterprise is pretty scary to begin with. We started this thing, we weren't planning to be entrepreneurs, neither of us. We came into our graduate program, international affairs program with different end goals, and then came across these kinds of issues and came across these solutions, these possible solutions, and that just snowballed from there. But I think that every step of the way, it's been a very conscious decision that, yes, we're going to move forward with this instead of some of the other things that might seem more logical to pay my student bill, for example.
Yeah.
So it's been every step of the way committing. It's a conscious commitment.
Yeah. During the process, you made a lot of compromises, right? So we started doing our grad school. You have other things, like a lot of people were starting to apply to jobs, and like you have your exams, you have your teamwork, and then you're making little compromises that at the end they add up, and you're making a huge effort to try to fight for the project that you believe in. So I think the constant fear is like, what's your balance? I am doing enough. At the same time, should I also take care of the other side of your other activities? So it's like a constant back and forth balance yourself. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, for instance, a failure that you encountered early in the process, early in the building of this. An obstacle you ran into, perhaps, is another way to put it.
Yeah. That's a hard one.
That's a really hard one.
There's no easy questions.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
No, I think, go ahead if you have an idea.
So I would say failure, maybe when we started the project, it was a lot of iteration, whiteboarding at night, and pitching, and a lot of things going on. I think the failure would have been maybe because we had the time limitation, because we started when we were full-time students. So we considered failure sometimes when we couldn't give enough in a presentation, or we were like, okay, we should have researched more this part. And then we were like, it's okay, we're full-time students. When we're done, we're gonna dedicate our time on this, which is what we did after graduating. So I think we're in this stage right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think so just while they're wrapping up the final notes, what are 2 habits that you have that, or rituals that help you succeed? Or come up on stage, whatever.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Well, man, well, there's not a lot of we're trying to get better at the together. But, well, I think on a personal level, I think that something is just taking a little bit of time off, so dedicating some time each week that we are actually disconnected from this project.
Absolutely.
It's possible to be on my email literally 24/7. And then once we get to competitions, we have our little we have our little ritual before we come on stage.
What's that? Tell us a little bit about that ritual. I'm just curious.
Well,
I might have seen some of it happening back there. I'm just wondering, maybe everyone here is curious what the ritual is.
We're not showing you, but there's a little bit of dancing involved.
There's a dance.
There's a song, yeah.
Maybe they'll do it later. I don't know. When the cameras are not pointing at them.
Yeah, there's a song before pitching and after. And it's like a ritual that we have.
A song, you said? Can you share the song?
Yeah, the song for before is called Soy Yo by Bomba Estéreo. And it's like this women's empowerment song, and it's reggaeton, and it's jumpy, and it's from Colombia, which is where I lived for a few years, and so it's just a happy song. Sing it. No. Not that kind of competition.
For that. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Boom. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. And our final presenter.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tochukwu Egesi, and I'm from Africa. I don't know if it's just me, but I just have some apps on my mobile phone that I can't delete. Do you have those apps on your phone? Yes. Why can't you delete it? Why are they forcing you to keep it? Okay, just open this book. I just noticed that the organizing team asked us to download the mobile app, okay? And number 2 says what? Install and open the app. Now, someone probably called the typewriter back and said, hey, guy, I think I want you to add something. Won't take up space. Why are they begging you to keep the app? Because you won't download it. Because online platforms are failing. Because there are so many solutions out there that you can't keep all of them. And that is why at Remind Me, our job and what we've done is to bring offline solution for African problem. And that problem is the problem of immunization. And the only way to reach mothers that are in rural areas and low-income areas is to provide a software, a sophisticated software that works without the internet, without a smartphone, without access to 4G network or even the 5G network that Samsung is coming up with. So that brings me to a lady called Amina and her son Saliu. In her hand, she has a paper that they use for recording the child's immunization schedule. Now, this paper could get missing. There could be errors because we have a lot of literacy issue in Africa, so there could be errors on this paper. Now, you know what that causes? Repeated vaccination. So Saliu gets immunized for polio 2 times. So what happens? There's an overdose, and Saliu misses one of the immunization he's supposed to take, and Saliu has a problem in the future. Amina expects Saliu to be standing here in the future, but Saliu would die. What is the obvious impact of using a paper to record all of this? There is an 8.2 immunization completion rate. That is, people that start the immunization and end it, just 8.2. Let's go further. Why do we have 8.2? Why is it so low? The card collection rate is 29%. That is the people that even have the card that Amina is holding, just 29%. So due to errors and all of that, we have an 8.2 completion rate. I just hope you're following the journey, right? Are you all following the journey? Okay, so what if we could take all of this to the cloud? And that is what we've done. We've completed our proof of concept, and we're working with the Nigerian government to scale it up across 3 states for an official pilot. And then from there, we're looking at taking it across Africa. So let me run you through our solution. First, you can register childbirth with our solution. The UNICEF in Nigeria recently cried out that we have a less than 12% childbirth registration in Nigeria. What does that obviously cause? Poor decision making. The development agencies cannot do much because they don't have access to data. With our solution, you can check immunization history of the child so you don't repeat. And all of this is done using a code, a USSD code that works offline. Now, let me give you a little picture. You know when you dial your *55 something hash on your mobile phone? I know you don't do all of that in America, but in the low and income developing countries, that is how we live. They can also check for nearest healthcare center. So to find the nearest healthcare center, they just check it up and locate the nearest one to reduce the cost of vaccination services. Essentially, we are increasing demand for vaccination services and also empowering the system. So caregivers or relatives receive automated voice calls and SMS. Let me just talk a bit on this. We started with providing SMS reminders, but we now notice that they can't read English, so we moved to local languages. But trust me, we discovered that, because I was in the field, we discovered that the SMS wasn't working because people who do not go to school cannot read their local language. So we had to introduce local voice calls, automated local voice calls, to strengthen the system. We also provide USSD inventory management for hospitals so they can communicate to the development agencies and the government their inventory level. We also help them manage appointment booking and push notification for emergency. Imagine that there is an outbreak in Africa and it's for children that are 3 years old. How do they get that data? Just from us, because they would just go to our platform, pull the data of children that are 3 years old, and send their caregivers a text message to come and immunize that child. So we are providing an emergency system for them. So this is what we have. The code is *347*01. You can access our platform for immunization, maternal care, and for hospital management. And basically, we are supporting the caregivers to increase demand for vaccination services. We are supporting the healthcare workers to confirm that an immunization has taken place, because we allow them confirm using the child's unique identifier. We also support development agencies by providing them access to our data for them to take decisions and prepare their reports. So our scale-up plan is to keep it free for the next 24 months, and we are into the 6th month now. $1 for 5 year subscription, and then grants and license fees for dashboard assets. So guys, let's work together. I'm still around DC for some time. You can communicate to them, and they will get to me, or you give me your card. I'll reach out to you with the header, let's work together in your country, or you can work with us from where you are. Thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah, thank you.
What do you know about why people don't complete their immunization, that 8%? Is it just because they're not getting reminded, or are there other things going on?
So,
how are you addressing them?
Essentially, is one, they don't know the importance of the immunization. And apart from sending them reminders, we also communicate to them the importance of doing the immunization itself in their local language as well. And they also, the problem of the paper itself, when there are errors on the paper, they can't track it. When the paper goes missing, these are common issues that lead to them not completing the immunization, amongst other factors.
I really appreciated your iterative approach and your learning approach so far. As you enter this pilot, the 3-state pilot, what are you hoping to learn from that, and how would that change your product going forward?
So every day we keep learning, and each time we talk to agencies, the federal government, the state government, the development partners, each time we speak to them, there is a new feature that we get to add. So we are much more open to learn. We have an open mind to learn. And at this time, our focus is on reducing the burden of healthcare workers, which is why we have 4 major networks in Nigeria. Every day we keep working to add a new network. So right now it's working on 3 networks, and it's remaining 1 network. And that network even has the lowest number of subscribers. But we are still working to get them on board. So the aim is to reduce the burden on health workers by providing more access to the technology, which is getting more networks on board. Yeah.
Is there any form of a growth hack that you can do here? I've definitely seen in the U.S. and Europe players that have gone direct to, the doctor community might be a bit looser here, but to go get the electronic health records and ingest them, is there any kind of fast forward so you can be banging out a lot of SMSs quickly?
Okay, so for the electronic health record, we have, because we have data of the child's due dates. So now, the health worker or the mother is supposed to impute the child's unique identification that we give the child to confirm that the immunization has taken place. So with the same code, which works offline, they can access the child's immunization history to see the journey where the child is on any immunization. So we're providing the same technology offline. They don't have to go somewhere else to get that.
Partnership with the local government is probably exceptionally important.
Yes.
What is the main challenge you are facing when you are communicating with the local government to really get full support from them?
So I'm a strong believer of going back to your roots. So when we did our proof of concept, I went back to my state in Nigeria, where I had some local influence, and we were able to get them to get on board. This is a welcome development in Africa, so it's not really difficult to get them on board. Where you have to do more work is where they are fighting with the project, and with the support of their partners that are on the table, which you're aware of, they are always willing to jump on it since they are not the ones spending the money. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me a little bit more on the financial model in terms of how you got to the price description?
Okay. So what we currently are. It's free for the next 18 months. We are into our 6th month now. After that, we are going to take $1 for a 5-year period, to keep it sustainable. That is to say, they are going to pay 20 cents per year, okay? And that would cover the cost of providing the reminders and keeping the service on board with an extra 20 cents for a markup on it. So that, and as well, we're going to receive grants and awards and non-equity investment and donations to keep it going. But the reason why we are charging the $1 for a 5-year period is to keep it sustainable, even if the funders say we're not funding anymore. And I have another point to that. We would be charging some license fees for the development agencies who need to access the platform for data reasons, and also providing consultancy services for people who want to use the same technology to affect other areas of the system. Because agriculture will need this solution, but financial inclusion will need this solution. So anybody who wants to use our software codes or to use our knowledge about the system to build. Already we've done something for M&E with some foundations, where they're using the same offline technology to collect data on the field offline. So we are willing to provide consultancy services for anybody who needs the same technology to collect, to do another project.
What is your experience working with big pharmaceutical companies? And can this system also make sure that they are getting the right vaccine?
So I come from a product development background. So I have the ability to blend into scenarios once I am very well informed about the situation. So I have little or zero knowledge of the pharmaceutical system, but I'm really certain that this solution can help in combating the problems that they face in their sector, as long as it's going to be used in the low-income developing countries.
How do you understand at the community level some of the trust and privacy concerns?
So to start with, if you go to our platform, our website, you're not going to see a sign-up button there for development agencies. You can only see a login button. That is because we profile the people who can have access to the data ourselves, based on the instruction of the federal government or the state government. So they can only log in but cannot sign up to see the data. We take privacy to be very, very important. And because the solution works offline, it is almost impossible for someone to check someone else's data without knowing the person's unique ID, which is only revealed to the caregiver via the mobile phone. It is important to also know that in Nigeria, we have 180 million people, but we have 144 million registered phone numbers. So that means that the solution is here at the right time.
All right, we are out of time. All right, so while the judges wrap up their notes, can you tell us a little bit about how you practice staying becoming a successful entrepreneur, becoming a successful change maker? What do you practice in order to do that better?
So personally, I feel there is a global action to take action. There's a global call to take action. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that we had 1,300 applications, and 500 came from Nigeria. So what that means is that young people in Africa are taking action, and I'm so excited I'm part of them, and I'm the one solving this problem, because someone else would be solving it if I'm not. So for me, I believe that this is an opportunity to take action and nothing else.
I have two questions around inspiration. I'm going to start with a different one than I did with another group. Who inspires you or motivates you?
I think
along this journey.
My community.
Pardon?
My community.
Mm-hmm.
So the people around me, my family, the support I get, and the fact that organizations like yours have put me on the stage like this, mm-hmm. It's probably enough to keep me for the next 3 months.
Can you share with the audience how you go about learning?
So research is key, and also having an open mind. Don't lock yourself up somewhere. Open your mind to a whole lot of conversations. I think the only conversation I've not opened my mind up to is the blockchain conversation, but I'm excited, the young people that came on stage, they spoke so much about it, and we'll speak more to see how we can learn about that technology. But beyond that, have an open mind and learn as much as you can learn.
That's great. And the last thing that everybody's ready, but one more thing. What's something, a piece of advice you would share with the audience in terms of launching their own ideas?
So don't let anyone stop you. The no means next opportunity. You're going to. Anybody who doesn't support you doesn't understand it. It doesn't mean it's irrelevant, So just keep pushing it. Once you are sure, back your project with data. Understand the model, understand the environment, understand your audience. If you are certain it's going to work, then keep doing it. Keep pushing it. We started with one network, and we went to speak to another network, and they didn't buy into it. But after they saw a particular state do a big event, to launch our program, they called us themselves. So if you keep doing it, people are around watching to see how long you hold up, and they will put in their support. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Great job. I'll take the clicker from you. Thank you. All right. Let's have one big round of applause for all of our contestants. All right. So now it is time for all of you to open up the Youth Summit app, because this is your opportunity to vote. A notification has been sent to you. You simply need to go to the top left menu icon, click on that, go to the activity feed, and then go to, on the right-hand side, you'll see notifications. There's a link, should be near the top, or perhaps the most recent notification, and then click on that. It'll take you to a page where you can vote. Take a few minutes to go ahead and do that. If you have any trouble, please raise your hand. We have someone here walking around. Rohit, where are you? There you are. We will get you some help. But take 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm going to start inviting people to come up here and stand in line to then do the open mic pitches. Please vote now. Open the app, click on the menu icon on the top left, go to the activity feed, and then go to notifications. Rohit, can you come over here? Pardon? Where do you do that? If you don't have that notification there, can you go ahead and see? You might have to enable notifications on your phone. So you have to go to settings, then. Oh, you just got to click it. Oh, okay. Oh, you have to copy and paste it? Okay, an extra step. I'm sorry about that. But yes, copy and paste that link into a browser. Hand if you voted, just so I know that we're making some I see some hands starting to come up. Okay. So if you already voted, just raise your hand as soon as you do. This signals to me that we're making progress. Awesome. Yes, I see hands coming up. We are making progress. Keep raising your hand, just pop it up real quick just so I can have an idea of, all right, great, thank you. You can just hold it up for a couple of seconds when you finish voting so I know that you have completed the voting. All right, a lot of votes coming through, very good. All right, 1 more minute and then we will begin open mic pitching. You're ready for this. Pardon? Oh, it froze? Oh, she voted. Oh, got it. Thank you. You have a mic, right? Perfect. All right, 30 more seconds. Molly, we'll start soon. You'll turn on me. We have the link behind me as well. All right. Raise your hand if you have not voted. Okay. There's the link behind me as well if you need it, up on the screen. All right, so while the remaining people who can vote, oops, I lost the link, but it was there. While the remaining people vote, I just want to go over the rules. You're going to have 60 seconds to pitch. We will keep the time up here, so if I can have someone set the timer to 1 minute. Thank you. Then you will see exactly how much time. As soon as you run out of time, I will begin clapping. Roman, can you 1 minute? We will have the timer set here for you. When you are done, you'll simply walk off stage. You will hand the microphone to the next person. And the faster we move, the more people we can have pitching. Raise your hand if you're pitching. Raise your hand if you're pitching. Come up. I'm going to run out here and handpick you. All right. Come on up. 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 Let's start with that. Line up over here on the side. I will continue to call more people if we have more time. I just want to get us started. What's that? All right. Molly, can you turn us on this mic? Let's make it live.
There we go.
1 minute.
Good, all right.
Let's come up on stage. First person. We're going to move this as quickly as we can. So round of applause for our first person pitching.
Thank you all so much. My name is Chidi Coldsweat, and I'm the founder of Donors for Africa. 90% of your fantastic, innovative idea will die within the first 3 years of inception, largely because you do lack access to financing to support the ideas that you have, and then you also lack something also very important. Based on the extensive research that we conducted with a lot of funding agencies, we found that there's quite a lot of money available in the system. Over $50 billion is pumped yearly or annually into the system. But what is truly lacking is a lack of well-developed ideas in the hands of competent individuals. So what do we do with the platform that we are proposing today? We are connecting donors with well-developed ideas or individuals who are looking for funding to access or promote the ideas that they have. So while we have conducted extensive training on your weak areas of need, we will now connect you to donor agencies who are on a platform available and waiting to fund your innovative idea. What the platform will do is that you have an opportunity to show them your progress and make money from it. Thank you.
You can go that way and hand her the microphone. Oh, you have an extra. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chelsea Jonge, and I'm from the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Lucia. My project idea focuses on the financial empowerment of women from rural communities in St. Lucia. And the aim is to work with young entrepreneurs to train these women to give them the skills that they need to start up their own businesses. I plan to do this by working with organizations like the St. Lucia Crisis Center to kind of put them in the right frame of mind to become entrepreneurs, and also to work with credit unions to provide them with the startup capital that they would need to start these businesses. The long-term objective of this idea is to reduce the unemployment rates as well as the rates of unplanned pregnancies and the dependence on spouses that we have in these communities. Like Kofi Annan said, there's no tool greater for development than the empowerment of our women, and this idea is just one of the ways that we can do that in St. Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ayo. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a child development specialist, and Nigeria has about 10.5 million out-of-school children, the highest in the world. We try to focus on that by trying to solve a problem. Yesterday, we were in a class with Mr. Bolu, and he put us in a group, and when we were strategizing, we tried to solve the problem because 69% of that comes from the northern part of the country, but it's working somewhere in the southwest, but not in the north. When we try to bring the solution to the north, we realize that they have cultural differences because Nigeria has about 300 tribes of its own. So you can't take that decision, that solution and bring it. So what we decided to do is, why not infiltrate the culture, bring technology into their different culture, because what they don't want is that they don't want it to take their culture away. So if it's fishing, let's bring technology that can spice up fishing or cattle rearing, and then it can solve their problem holistically, and then we can foster development. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, there.
Hello, I'm Mr. I, and I teach in Winala, a rural community in the north of Mexico. There we have a lot of job opportunities, but our graduate students are not getting hired because of the lack of proper training, mainly because of the lack of proper workshops. That's why Teach for Mexico and CONALEP Nuevo León are launching the Itzaya initiative, that is virtual reality training for the technical skills of tomorrow. This will allow us to train over 2,000 students in aircraft and care maintenance with the last generation virtual reality softwares. We have now some sponsors like Monterey Tech that will donate the software and Kia Motors that will build the workshops. Nevertheless, we are missing the VR equipment that costs around $5,000. Nevertheless, we know that the return of investment will come not only in money, but in the boost of human capital that improves the work opportunities of these young students. Itzaya initiative means in Nahuatl, open your eyes. So today we ask you to open your eyes for Winala, Mexico. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Joshua Ebin from Nigeria. I'm an engineer by day and social entrepreneur by night. Kuje is actually a place in my country, Abuja, Nigeria, and this is like the food basket of the nation. However, a lot of waste products from the agricultural industry are not used properly. And so I'm the co-founder of a company called Jumela Compost. This is a relatively new company, less than 1 year. And what we are trying to do is we're trying to take these raw materials from the agricultural industry and recycle those into organic manure. So that way we can actually increase the productivity of our agricultural industry and also add value to the system. Now, what we propose is we want to do training to the local farmers, helping them to use better farming techniques, and also we hope to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Garima. I'm doing my PhD at University of Michigan here. And it's been a long time since I've been in the United States. And one thing that I always feel is that whenever I go camping with my amazing friends from this country, I feel less equipped with leadership skills. So I feel, and my friends always tell me, oh, I learned this in my Scouts program, whether it's a girl or a boy. So I feel that is missing in my personality, and that's what my idea is about. So being from a middle-class family in India, even after that, I never got to experience all these leadership skills that people from American Boy Scouts program or Girl Scouts program have. So these programs like these are important because they instill a feeling of citizenship, character, personal fitness, and leadership. So my idea is to have such programs in the developing world as well and instill them as a part of youth education in these countries. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harry from China. So I'm proposing for a platform for volunteer training, for volunteer education in China. Every year we have 7,000 college students moving to rural areas for teaching, for 1.5 million students every year for winter and summer break. However, most of those volunteer teachers are actually just college students without any education expertise and also without any understanding of the local situations. So what we are proposing is for training platforms for step-by-step training for those volunteers to know how to teach students and how to design a community-based training program. And we will also introduce a reward system to incentivize them to actually participate in this training program. We have the funding. Most universities have the funding for that, and we also have passionate students. We just need small change to leverage a larger impact. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and I'm from Indonesia. My idea is I want to have a business training for small business enterprise, which is usually they don't have the access of the loan, and they don't have the skill of the business because they don't have the education. So basically I want to have a training for them for the business so they know how to finance the business, the marketing themselves, the packaging, the product, and all the stuff. And also, we don't have the training one, but we want to have to keep it, like, we want to have, like, evaluate everything that they have. So we want to have keep mind, like, everything like a mentorship. So whenever they have the problem and we can solve it or some stuff, like, we just keep learning together, all the stuff. But basically, we want to have, like, a platform that they can, like, reach other and have more networking, so a better future. Thank you.
Good day. I'm Dr. Bilikis Akindele, resident here in the US, but from Nigeria. My program is about creating an opportunity for kids in Nigeria, the opportunity to learn STEM and computer science in a way that improves their efficiency and their readiness for the VUCA part that we have right now in the world. There is the global shortage of technology. There's a shortage of some technology and IT skills, as well as sciences that are really important to help the younger ones get employed in a very wonderful fashion. So I don't want the kids to go through the same problems that I had to go through to get to this point that I am here. So I would want to create a center for science for them. I've been able to visit with my 5-year-old some museums here in the US which are dedicated specifically for STEM and computer science, and that's what I'm trying to build for them. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Tutan from India. I was a consultant in World Bank. Now I have joined as a faculty to economics and public policy in one of the universities. Being a faculty always gives you more opportunity to experiment. So the things I always wanted to do, so now I'm able to do. So actually, I have more than one idea to share. So one idea that I have, started experimenting is to see if the kids can learn better if they're not in school. Whether schools are the best solution that we have. So what I have started doing is, next to my university, there are villages which are really poor. And the kids are, a lot of kids, they drop out of the schools. So we have actually given them, computers and some modules. And we have kept the supervision level at the minimum so that they can learn at ease. And it's still in the experiment phase, but we're expecting something good to come up. And the other thing is I have actually started a course on sustainable development goal measurement. Thank you so much.
Show of hands if any of you are entrepreneurs or plan to go into entrepreneurship in the next 5 years. How many of you have heard that if you want to do a business and succeed in it, you need your market research and your data and your market share and all of that? How many of you can afford to pay $5,000 to $10,000 to dollars to big consultancy firms to do your market research for you? I didn't think so. My name is Bridget Azubike, and I'm the founder of Reonlearn 360. We train researchers and give them data analysis skills to help them join jobs. I want to extend that to entrepreneurs, where we have an app on your mobile phone for you to be able to collect market research data and analyze that data so that you have the information to make informed decisions that will help you grow your business. So would you like to get that kind of data? Show of hands. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Prabhat. I was working in the sports industry in the US. I was an agent. And working in the US sports industry, I realized that my work is not impacting on anyone around my community. That's where I packed my bags, went to India, and started a rural Indian sports organization for rural Indian girls, especially girls from tribal communities. So far today, I have been able to develop 10,000 athletes. We have girls who are cutting sugarcane going to the Olympics for Japan in 2020. Along with that, while I was living in the rural India, I realized that the community along with me is the farming community. And India is 60% of the Indian population relies on farming. So till today, the farming has not been at all a growth. So what we decided, we kind of figured out the problem of the farmers in India, which is transportation. And we have started a platform called Poput, where we are bringing the trucking companies, farmers, and the vendors who can buy their produce all together in one platform. And that has been cutting the farmers' cost by 30%.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ruth. I'm from Nigeria. So even if the government decides to build 1,000 schools and employ 1 million teachers, there will still be a learning gap because human talent is not matched with potential. So our idea was, how can you identify young ones as little as 5 years old, like identify their talents, what is it that they are good at, and that way you direct them to the appropriate career path. So we came up with ideas of how you can implement career services in primary schools and secondary schools, and also how the government can create specialized schools like probably for mechanics or carpentry work or tailoring. So basically, you're not forcing them to go to normal secondary schools where they are taught subjects that they will probably never understand or they are probably never interested in, but you are already like channeling their talent into the appropriate career path for them. And that way you reduce underemployment and then also bridge the learning gap. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Mutiara Marganita, and this is my friend Fandi. We are from Indonesia. So if you're talking about human capital, we believe it is quite a big topic. So based on our background and study in finance, we established a kind of platform called Sumatra Youth Finance, which aims to raise financial awareness of youth through financial literacy. So this kind of platform is aimed to educating the youth to leverage the function of smartphone. And this is need to be established because of the lack of financial literacy, the lack of inclusivity of technological education, and the high service cost of financial services in Indonesia.
So basically, the Sumatra Youth Finance will be divided in 3 regions. It is the southern, northern, and western Sumatra Island, and will carry out 2 main programs. The first is the Ideas Matter, and the second is the external collaboration. The Ideas Matter has 2 sub-programs called the Focus Group Discussion and also the Morning Class. And the external collaboration will have the program called the Social Movement and Social Campaign. It will promote the advertisement to the youth of Sumatra Island to use their technology as the platform to do financial services.
All right, thank you. Awesome, let me take that. Wow, that was incredible. Everybody, give yourselves a big round of applause and show support for everyone who came up here and pitched. This is the first time that we have done this at the World Bank Youth Summit. What do you think of this? Is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? Say yes. Yes. All right. This is validation. I need to be sure before we do this again next year. So great job. Thank you so much. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our first keynote of the day, Brian Gonzalez, who was one of our esteemed judges, and he will now be joining us for keynote. Brian Gonzalez is the Director for Public Sector Policy within Intel's Government Affairs team based in Washington, D.C. Brian started at Intel in 2000 and has taken on a range of global roles. Most recently, he was the general manager for Intel's global education sector, where he led a global team driving programs to accelerate education outcomes through technology adoption with a scope of activities that cover the full spectrum of learning scenarios, including university student programs, teacher programs, K-12 student learning, and personalized learning infrastructure. Please help me welcome our judge earlier today, and now our keynote, Brian, to the stage.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Wow, it's tough to follow the presentations I just witnessed. I want to, first of all, recognize the organizers, the folks from World Bank, folks from Virtual Educa that have been on the journey with me in education for the last 10 years, but most importantly, for all of you here in attendance. Oh my gosh. You know, I came here curious, okay, hopeful, because I'm an optimist. I'm right now super inspired. Thank you so much for what you've shown today. Amazing. And I will use a mic to walk around. You know, I've been at Intel, as was mentioned, 18 years now. And what a delight and what a joy and what an honor for me to have spent so much time in education and to hear every one of your presentations today, from the first one, I think, to the very last ones, talking about the value and the importance of education and bringing new models. And it's so exciting for me to do that, to see that. I've had the opportunity at Intel for the last 10 years, actually, to be totally focused around education. And in that journey in the education space, I've had the privilege, opportunity, and joy to travel to over 100 countries, to see over 300 programs. So I come to you today not as an expert in education, but a witness to experts. Just like I leave here today and I witness the future in terms of entrepreneurship and passion. One of the presenters earlier today, when he was doing his pitch, said something that stuck with me. All of them said things that stuck with me, but one in particular is that if they don't get your idea, it's just that they're not understanding it. If they don't like it, it's because they're not getting it. And what I take from that is that we have to have that passion, but we also have to have the data behind it and the arguments that go with that. And so when they don't get it, and maybe it's because they don't understand it, we need to provide them that inspiration and enlightenment so they can be on the charge with you. Again, having had the privilege of being a judge and listening very careful to the presentations, and then having the greater opportunity, equal opportunity to hear some of you do that 1-minute pitch, it's inspiring, so thank you for that. Intel has been in the education sector since the very beginning. I've been at Intel for 18 years, as I mentioned, 10 years in education. Intel this year celebrated 50 years. And from day one, we recognize that the sum total of the value that we bring is in the minds of our engineers, our sales teams, our administration teams, everyone that becomes part of the community of Intel in the way that we bring value to the markets that we serve. So learning for us at Intel is a lifelong endeavor. But more than us, learning about how we learn at Intel, we recognize the importance of bringing back value to the communities that we serve. We've done programs around teacher professional development, which we see as key in terms of over 15 million teachers that we've provided assistance, that we've worked with them on not how to be experts in their subject matter, because they know that, but how to use technology to enhance, amplify. And most importantly, the way that we see technology in education is to do two things: to engage students more deeply and to empower teachers. But in doing so, the projects that I've had the good fortune to engage in around education have had 4 factors. So I'm cutting to the chase, like your 1-minute presentations. The 4 factors that are going to make a difference as we look to bring in the next generation of innovation into the education system, that's going to help launch your companies faster because you'll have a more ready market, have nothing to do with technology. They have to do about 4 items that I saw here today already. One is commitment. And this commitment is personal commitment to see it through, personal commitment to educate those that don't get your solution, and your entrepreneurial spirit that you get it, but the other folks just don't yet. You need to be committed to that journey. Sometimes that journey happens fast. Sometimes it starts fast, and then you have obstacles. And we heard a little bit about how the teams are challenged in those obstacles. Secondly, is the collaboration with industry. A lot of the presentations you heard today, some of the ones that you heard most recently, they were already learning from each other. That level of collaboration has to be honest and real and true and with purpose. Commitment and collaboration. Thirdly, and again, something I heard on a number of presentations already today, is that of creating a community of learning. Recognizing that you're at a state where you're bringing in innovation that a lot of folks still are also curious about and probably more so skeptical about. So you need to create a community around learning, around the solution that you're trying to bring. So it's simple for me to remember these things because it's really, the 3 C's, right? Commitment, collaboration, and community. But the thing that's going to make a difference between a great idea that doesn't happen and a good idea that makes it through is going to be courage. The courage to take that step. The courage that all of you are showing in coming in and doing your pitch. Doing your pitch to folks that you know should be more interested than they appear to be. That should be more knowledgeable about what you're bringing than you think they are. And that is what you need to bring to the table. Bring all of that power of the commitment, the collaboration, bring in the community, and step that up with the courage to take the actions, and you are well on your way on that. I wanted to simplify a little bit of what Intel does. And basically, you know, a lot of folks don't think about us in terms of education or even entrepreneurship. Well, there's a lot of that happens. And by nature, if you think about Intel, you probably don't buy anything directly from Intel. You buy something from someone who has Intel inside. So entrepreneurship and collaboration and small businesses that are growing is the lifeline for Intel. But at the end of the day, what we're there is to tackle on the big problems that our generation, your generation, the future really has ahead for us. And as we have problems, there's always great opportunities. But it is technology that is applied what we are talking about. When I give you some examples about how we see education in the classroom, it's not just learning more of how to code. That's great. That's a good thing. Those of you that like that, continue on. But it's more important for the rest of us to really look at education, technology in the education space as a tool to deepen our learning, to scale our messages, to take on the challenges, some of the ones that we heard today, and all of them had a component of technology. I want to share with you a quick little video. I have two of them. And this video, I try to get the ones that are least marketing because I'm not here about that. But I do want to put at your footsteps here the opportunities that are coming at you, that you are well into already from the discussions I've had, but it's something that is going to just accelerate.
By the year 2020, this little blue planet will be home to more than 50 billion connected devices. And while it's impossible to predict all the ways our everyday lives will be impacted, there is one thing we know for sure. The speed of life will not be slowing down. Imagine the amazing new experiences that will be made possible as the promise of a truly smart and connected world is fully realized. Through the rapidly expanding variety of personal computing devices, the Internet of Things, and the powerful intelligence of the cloud. This is the future of computing, and it's approaching at the speed of life.
You'll hear me talk about this a couple of times today. One will be the fact that it's not about devices. It's about what we can do with them. It's not about access. It's about outcomes. A number of the presentations today hit on that quite squarely. The fact that it's about outcomes. And that's where we want to focus some of the remaining of the discussion. The other part that is highlighted in this video is the fact that, yes, there's technology and data now all around us, which gives us an opportunity to, one, be very distracted or be very empowered to go and do something with that data. We saw some examples earlier today on that. You'll hear, and you probably heard it already yesterday, I'm sure, and you'll hear it today and for the coming years. We don't so much talk about 21st century skills because, come on, it is 2019 almost already. But we do talk about Industry 4.0. And again, quite simply put, it is now where the technology has come to the point where it can make decisions about things that impact us very directly. Machine-to-machine language, it's not a thing of science fiction, and you know this better than most. It's something that's happening in real time, and it creates a tremendous opportunity. The new technologies that are going to come from that are already with us. Artificial intelligence, in my simple way of looking at it, is making sense of the data and having that data take action. And we see that happening day in and day out. There's a wave of change, and we heard a little bit about that, and there's a lot that has been already said about the future of work. You haven't noticed yet, you will soon. I'm an optimist. I don't see that, the robots are taking over or, but that I do see that we have the capability of augmenting. For example, I was in the Republic of Georgia just 3 weeks ago, talking about human capital development to a group that was focused around vocational studies. And they were saying, our vocational students many times become the firemen, the pilots, the chefs that are doing the work actually most immediate that's needed in their community. Will this technology that's coming displace them? Well, the good news is the technology that's coming, that's properly implemented, will give these heroes superpowers. It's about augmenting their capabilities, enhancing their knowledge. Some of the work that can be automated completely gives us an opportunity and freedom to move to a next level of how we bring the technology and how we direct the algorithms around artificial intelligence. However, and it was mentioned earlier today, there is impact. Many, many, many jobs are already currently being impacted. New businesses are growing. You have the advent of Uber, and now you have autonomous driving, and what does that mean for the Uber driver, right? So you see that velocity in some of these changes. In my role now that I've moved into public sector policy, I'm moving from the implementation side to going back to the policy side and what are the things that make sense and how can industry, companies like Intel's and many others, help governments understand the impact of technology and work with the communities to make sure in a very collaborative way that we are using the technology and bringing it to the greatest benefit. In my mind, nowhere is that more important than in the role of education. And I look at education maybe very selfishly in the fact that in my case, it's all about lifelong learning, right? Prepare for uncertain job market is the students, but it's also my role too, and my job at Intel. Look at the required skills that bring the next level of value is something that I need to do, students need to do, at all levels and at all ages. For us, in our view, and working very closely in collaboration and in communities that we serve, we see that education provides a foundation for entrepreneurship and employability. But the right levels and the relevant levels of education matter now more than ever. And that is a change that we have seen in the last few years. It's not about having access to content. It's about understanding how I can use this content in a way that is with purpose, and this purpose is one that I can defend, advocate, and sell, as opposed to just having more knowledge about a particular subject. So the application of the technology is really the currency. So the new digital divide I put in front of you is not if we have a device or not, it's what can we do with it? Because if we have more connectivity in areas that need it, but they're gonna get on Facebook, and nothing wrong with Facebook, but if they're gonna get on Facebook to learn more about a topic or connect and network, that's also valuable. It's also valuable if they wanna use Facebook to keep in touch with their family. But it's more than just being connected, it's using the technology a little bit less of a consumer and more of a creator. We have, in my generation, and yours to follow now, the greatest consumers in the history of mankind. We need the greatest creators and developers. And that's where the technology applied in education in a particular way will help us drive that. Thomas Friedman, who's written many books, I happen to be partial, had an opportunity to meet him and have some discussions, but he said in one of his more recent books, it's that the children today, and you know this, young folks today, it's about inventing the cool thing they want to do next. It's about having that passion, but that passion having a level of value that brings that to the community where I can take that passion, convert it into a business that's sustainable and continues to bring value. So when we look at what many folks used to call 21st century skills, you know, these are skills, many of them, that have existed forever. I remember doing a presentation in Panama, and I had a similar slide, and someone in the audience said, you know, we needed this in 1914 when we did the Panama Canal. We just didn't call it that. Yes, what you need at every stage is the application of the relevant technologies, and work with us, folks like Intel and others, to help create that new technology. But the most important part of anything that we create is your application of it. So to have the adaptive thinking, problem-solving skills, in my mind, and that of the World Economic Forum, one of many, they look at these skills are the ones that are going to matter the most. Within Intel, we call these the Industry 4.0 skill set. A lot of it has to do with how we interact with each other. In a world of incoming robots and artificial intelligence, the most important variable of most projects is the human communication with the rest of the team. The algorithms are great. But if we didn't have a good charter of the project, we didn't communicate the milestones, we didn't take it to the next level, it didn't really matter. So that human interaction will always be at a premium, and I venture to say it's more so now. Entrepreneurship there is number 8. It could be number 1. It could be number 4. These are not necessarily in a priority order. But entrepreneurship is actually a core competency as we move forward. At Intel, when we look at now technology for education, we have 4 pillars that we focus on. Computational thinking, great. You can code, you understand, great. But that computational thinking that leads to an action, bingo, now you got something. That action is now sustainable. That action brings value. That action you can pitch. That action you can engage. That action you can use as currency to collaborate. Now you have that innovation entrepreneurship angle that is so critical that I see so much today in this room. We look also at technologies, as I said earlier, empower the teachers and engage the students. The technology can be used also to get data analytics from that student, so we move away from personalized learning, which is cool because it comes to the things I need, to adaptive learning, where the technology knows how I like to absorb information. And in my case, I like YouTube videos because I can replay them in my own privacy, and nobody knows that I really need to listen to this 5 times before I get it. But that's how I learn, and I enjoy it that way, and I do much better. So the technology should understand how I best get outcomes and deliver to me the content and knowledge in that particular way. And we have a lot of active research and projects and going now to market with a number of solutions around adaptive learning. Because all of this comes together around employability, which is your ability to be resourceful, to have technology as a tool to better connect, to better collaborate, to take your commitments to action, and to deliver value. So if you put it in a simplified chart, which I tend to like, just for my own benefit, is, we spend a lot of time around programming and physical computing and robotics, but really, and I apologize for the fonts here, changed a little bit, it's around student innovation that we're looking after. It's not robotics per se, it's students learning what they have today, because that robot may be very different tomorrow. But learning and collaborating and thinking through this in terms of a way that solves solution and using technology as that tool to help you is where the benefit comes. And at Intel, what we have been doing and need to do even more so is work with our constituent groups that use our technology, with our partners that sell our technology, and continue to raise the bar on the types of devices that we can bring for student use. If you go into a dentist office today, and you go to a dentist office of 75 years ago, and you've heard this, I'm sure, it's changed a lot. But if you go into a lot of the schools, and I'm talking San Francisco, and you look at the schools that my kids went to in terms of the use of technology applied to the learning, it hasn't changed dramatically in the last 50 years. It hasn't changed. But those same kids go home, play with the Xbox, the PS4, and they're entertained all the way to the top. But on the education side, we've been lacking. And that's something that we need to address. And Intel, from a standpoint of being a collaborator and wanting to be a leader in this space, that's where we see a lot of our work ahead. Let me give you a couple of examples of what we're learning in working with teachers that are the true experts. As I said, I'm a witness, they're the experts. I think this may have sound.
The one thing that we are doing not well enough is educating young people. The tools that you need to be successful in the workplace today are totally different than the tools that you used to need to be successful.
In the past, we've had to tell students to sit down, be quiet, learn. Teachers, the sage, they give you everything you need. What needs to happen now is a new wave of innovators who think about solving the real problems that we have out here in society.
My name is Steve Wright, and I'm a computer science teacher at Oakland Technical High School. I think there is an unbelievable amount of opportunity in using technology intelligently in education. Because what we're doing is writing code, we need full-fledged computers. We have 64 laptops across our 2 computer science classes.
When I think of new technology, it has to be forward-thinking. You always want to have technology that allows students to be creative.
My name is Casey Levitt. I'm a senior here at Oakland Tech, and I also run Girls Who Code. It's pretty important that there's a space on campus where girls can pursue their interest in computer science, to think about how if there is something I need, I can just build it myself, It's very exciting.
Intel takes on a lot of really big challenges in the world, and education is one of those. If we're not enabling students through powerful technology to be creators of the future, then we're not actually making a better world.
So where do we start? Well, we start with innovation for everyone, everywhere, anytime. And let me tell you, like I said, I've traveled to 100 countries. The best examples of the use of technology in education are not in Oakland. They're not in San Francisco. They may not be in the US. I've seen some incredible examples in the Dominican Republic, in my travels in Africa, where that commitment, that passion, that opportunity is seen as that's what we're going to do. That is going to be our gateway ahead. And that application really drives the best outcomes. So although I use those examples from the US market, that is just a small subset. We do see that the need for bringing in the newest technology that provides the best capability to the youngest hands is key for us in our role as a technology innovator at Intel. Because we see that it's not about what happens in the classroom, it's what happens outside the classroom. If I go back to really creating a community of learning doesn't start when the kids go to school, it just continues. It continues from home. It continues from the community center. In the Dominican Republic, for example, I went to a very similar presentation than what was done today, where the kids were pitching their ideas. The only difference that their average age was about 11. The government there saw that the need for innovation was so important that it could not be placed on top of the education system. What they did is they created innovation centers in every community, especially in the underserved communities, so kids could continue their education after school. And then they had those same community centers became learning centers for the parents in the evenings and in the weekends. So that is the full commitment that we talk about. And those are their learning spaces. And the same thing with the technology. For those of you that know me know that I like drones before they were outlawed in DC. I had to ask if I could even fly this here indoors, and technically I could. But when we bring in new technology, we partnered with a company called DJI, and I had the opportunity to work with them very closely. I said, I want to get one of these with the very best technology, but for students. Well, what do you mean for students? Well, for students in that they can do computational thinking and they can drive computational actions. Well, tell me more. Well, basically, it's not about flying the drone. It's about what you have to do to make it fly. It's not about your skills as a pilot. It's a little bit about your skills as a programmer. So we work with our engineers and their engineers, and we brought about $1,500 worth of... No, I know. I'm not going to fly it in DC. I got clearance. But actually, technically, indoors you could, but we won't. No worries. That's funny they're coming over. I had to call our policy people on that one on the drone side. But we're not going to fly it because it's not about the flying. It's about the programming. The best way to make this fly, which I won't do, is to have someone program it, not necessarily use the joysticks. And the programming languages are Scratch and now Python. And the best developer I've met, and I have some friends here in the audience that know, is one of my colleagues. When we took one of these drones, he took it home and he said, I don't know how to do Scratch. Who's my Scratch developer at home? And he found her, and she did a program for us. It's what we do on the demo, which we won't fly today, right? So it's about empowering, engaging, and bringing in the very best technology, not just what's affordable, but making the best affordable. And that's been one of our drives in the technology space for Intel. When we had the Classmate, which some of you may know, I know a number of you have been very involved with it, it wasn't about making just the most affordable. It was making the best and making it affordable. And that's the mindset that we have to take when we think about technology for education. Because it's that very leading edge that's going to give us an audience like this one, that are entrepreneurs, forward-thinking, Industry 5.0 future. And that's what we need to do from a technology standpoint. And again, in a couple minutes I have left, one of the things that we're doing at Intel is that when we talk about innovation centers, every innovation center is going to have an entrepreneurship center, and it's going to have an accelerator and an incubator to go with it. And we're talking middle school. We want to bring that entrepreneurship that I see so vibrant here today early on. And we want to give them the tools so they can make those ideas sellable and sustainable. And so when we look at AI for students, we spend equal amount of time on what's the purpose, where's the benefit, you tell us. The technology can follow that.
but you having that mission, that model for sustainability, that return on the investment of your time, and that's going to be the key. And as we look at that, that engine of innovation is one that many countries try to bring. In the US, we've tried, and in some cases, it's not a national program, it's a local program. When I've had the good fortune in my trips to Kenya and other countries, they have had national programs. The most successful that I've seen in terms of outcomes has been one that was done in Portugal, and there's a couple of folks here that were involved in that. But really what it comes down to is what it takes beyond the commitment, the collaboration, and community and courage. It takes a plan, but one of the things that you don't want to do when you do these projects are the following. You don't want to look at it just as technology without purpose. You don't want it driven by one member of an organization. You want this to be truly a national, regional project. What you want to do is to have a clear deliverable and commitment, make sure that you can also do the pitch for your plan, and bring all the stakeholders together in a way that you can develop global and local content and talent. And I leave you in summary with 3 points. We need our youth to have the skills and tools to prepare for a future as innovators. You have given me the privilege and honor to witness that today. And for that, I'm very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. One more round of applause for Brian. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it is now time for lunch. But before we depart, I just wanted to let you know, make a couple of announcements. One is, please do not leave the building until the end of the summit. This is because security has already shut down re-entering people, so the badges and all, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get back into the building. Getting out is easy, we promise, it won't keep you here. But coming back in will be very difficult, so please stay in the building until the end of the summit so that you don't have any issues coming back in. The other thing is I want you to take time to go visit the booths in the atrium. There are a lot of great partners, and there's one in particular that I want to highlight. His name is Cedric Noafor. He is the founder of a program called Roots Africa. And I had the privilege to meet Cedric here 2 years ago when I was facilitating this event. And he was in the audience and came up to me and we talked very briefly. But now he is back here 2 years later, and he told me that it was at this event, right here, sitting exactly where all of you are, that his idea was ignited. And he started working on a project that he now was able to have fund him to come back here to DC to present in the atrium. So I would love it if you would go into the atrium and go visit Cedric. The program is called Roots Africa. And tell him, show him your support, say hi from all of us, and let him know that you are behind him, whatever he needs. His name is Cedric. Please go see him in the atrium. There are many other partners there. They're also doing some interviews if you wanted to say a few words. Great opportunities. Enjoy your lunch. Please be back here by 1:10 p.m. 1:10 p.m. so that we can start on time for our afternoon keynote.